If we bow our heads, please. Father, we come before you now, and we just thank you, Lord, that these men and women that stand before us to conduct the business of our city, Lord, we ask you to bless them. Lord, we ask you to give them endurance and give them wisdom as they look towards the betterment of the city and look towards the better interests of each and every citizen. And Lord, before we close, we just want to ask you, I want to say a special prayer for those first responders, our fire and our policemen. Lord, we ask you to bless them in this time, Lord. We ask you to protect them. We ask you to keep them safe. And Lord, we ask you to open the hearts and the minds of our citizens to understand that these are men and women who put their lives on the line every day. They go out in danger and they protect, and they go towards the issues and they go towards the problems in order to protect. Lord, what an honorable profession. We ask you to bless them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. And if I could get the young men and women from the Boys and Girls Club to come forward, you're going to help me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Okay, so why don't you turn around and face the audience? Okay. And you go ahead and, can one of you start the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to have a presentation. We have several presentations this evening. First one is by, welcome back, Chief Ladapow. Fire Chief Kurt Ladapow will do a presentation of newly promoted fire department personnel. There you go, there you go.
Pardon my back.
Yeah.
Greg, Cody, Anthony, would you come on up, please? So this evening, I'm going to introduce you to our newest firefighter, but I'm also going to highlight the promotion of two firefighters that have been with us for a while. And all three of these individuals, these outstanding individuals, have something in common. They were either born here or they came here very young in their life and spend time with their families here. And as we talk about the fire service and as we talk about the work that all three of these folks, Greg in his case to get on the job, Cody and Anthony to promote to the level that we're going to be discussing tonight, it's extremely important that I recognize the value of the family and the value of the support that the families give to these young men as they move up in rank. And they will tell you themselves they couldn't do it without that support. In Greg's case, Greg's mom is a first grade teacher. Dad's in the construction business. Greg's 26 years old, graduated from Allen Hancock Academy, spent a couple of seasons with the Forest Service, and was brought on as one of the first recruits into our newly resurrected reserve program, relabeled as our Firefighter Auxiliary Program. One of the reasons that we restarted that program with the support of the council was to develop a path for folks who live within the area to come onto the department, and Greg is one of the first graduates of that program. Greg is about a month on the job now. He's finished our in-house academy. In the last 30 days, Greg has been out on strike team assignments twice on wildland fires. So, yeah, making overtime already. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Cody. Cody's been with us for 3.5, going on 4 years. Like the other two folks, Cody has the support of his family. Brooke, his wife, is sitting, oh, Brooke's not here, and his 8-month-old son, Wyatt, and just cute family. Cody also graduated from Allen Hancock Academy, Upon graduation from Allen Hancock Academy in 2007, Cody was hired out at Vandenberg Air Force Base as a hotshot. When we hired Cody in 2013, Cody was a captain with the hotshot crew out at Vandenberg Air Force Base. And since coming on the job, as soon as he finished his probation, Cody immediately started working to get ready to promote to engineer. Every position in our department has a path forward. We call it our succession plan. Every component has a task book with different assignments that they must complete to be able to even qualify to promote. Cody worked very hard to qualify, took the promotional test, and was promoted to engineer. We just pinned him last night. Anthony. So I'm quite fond of reminding people that Anthony was born in 1980 at Hahn Air Force Base in Germany. Not too long after that, the family relocated here to Vandenberg, and Anthony and the family have been here ever since. Anthony graduated from the Fire Academy again at Allen Hancock at the EMT Academy. Anthony's wife Cameron is here in the front row with his two beautiful daughters, Savannah and Cadence. You proud of Dad? Anthony's also a graduate of our reserve program. He was a reserve before he got hired full-time. In 2002, he came on as a full-time firefighter with us. Until in 2011, he was promoted to the rank of engineer. And just last night, we pinned him to the rank of captain. These are our future. The future of this fire department is the family, is the team, and I couldn't be more proud of these three individuals.
Thanks, sir.
I have one other item to brief the council on. Every 5 years, the Federal Emergency Management Agency mandates that we update our local hazard mitigation plan. We do that in concert with the county. That particular plan identifies all the hazards for us within the city, such as our vulnerability to earthquake, floods, fire, and now we've added drought. And throughout that plan, we talk about mitigation measures. It is a very structured plan. We must follow the template put forth by the federal government and also make sure it blends with the county. The plan is up for renewal. One of the mandates is we have a public meeting. So in the next week, hopefully, maybe 2 weeks, we'll be presenting that plan for public input. There's not a lot we can do with the plan. The important part of this plan, the important reason for this plan, is a lot of our FEMA grants are tied to the plan. As an example, if we did not have an approved plan, we would not be eligible to apply for grants to retrofit the fire station. If we did not have an approved plan, we would not be approved to apply for grants post-disaster. So this plan is extremely important. Hopefully in the next few days, we'll get it posted up. It is fairly thick. It is extremely technical. And hopefully, with the help of an individual that's been working with me part-time on it, we'll be able to explain it in such a manner that our public will find value to it, but we're getting pretty close to our deadline to file. So you'll be seeing something soon. I hope to be able, after the public meeting, come back and give the council an update, seek input from the council before we move it along, but it'll be moving fairly quickly.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next we're going to have a quarterly update by the Lompoc Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. Mr. Ostini.
Mayor Lingle, council members, city staff, Ken Austini, Lompoc Valley Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau.
First, I'll apologize for my attire, but I've been setting up tables and chairs for our annual dinner tomorrow night, so it's going to be a busy night. So real quick, I know you got a big agenda tonight. On April 21st, we had our job fair at the Dewey Center. I think probably the best one we've had since I've been at the chamber. A huge crowd, more employers than we've ever had at these events. We're now trying to figure out ways to measure how many people actually got jobs for our next one. But it was a tremendous success, and I know some of you attended that event. On the 22nd of April, attended the Santa Barbara Vintners Festival in Buellton. Always a big day to try to promote Lompoc and get all these tourists that come into this event to know about Lompoc and what we have to offer in Lompoc. On the 28th of April, attended the Vandenberg Quarterly Awards luncheon. That same afternoon, the Hancock Foundation held their quarterly meeting at the Lompoc Center. I've been working really hard to get them to have more meetings in Lompoc and not just always everything in Santa Maria. So we're continuing to work on that, but that was a first for many of them to see the Public Safety Training Center. So, and it's a 30-member board. So on May 2nd, we had ribbon cutting for Scratch Kitchen, new member of the Chamber of Commerce. I know some of you attended that. On the 5th of May, I attended the Good Samaritan Advisory Board. I'm now a member of that board. On the 6th of May, I know some of you attended the Northern Santa Barbara County Economic Update Summit at Radisson and San Marino. Teresa, I think, was there, and there was a number of Lompoc folks at that meeting. On the 12th of May, we had our regularly monthly Explore Lompoc meeting. We continue to work very closely with them to help promote Lompoc and do good things to bring people to Lompoc. That same afternoon, our Military Affairs Committee board meeting met. And that same night, or after that meeting, the Youth Leadership Lompoc Valley held their graduation for last year's class, and we're already heading forward to next year's class has been selected, and we will have our parent orientation in August. On the 18th of May, attended the 3rd District Supervisor Forum in Buellton. It was very interesting to go to that and hear that, and I'm sure there'll be more of those to come before the next election. On the 19th of May, helped judge senior project at Cabrillo High School. I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to do that. If you haven't, do it, because it's really an awesome opportunity to get to see what some of these kids in our community are doing. Some pretty great stuff. On the 20th of May, I had the opportunity to speak to our Leadership Lompoc Valley class about business and economics prior to their graduation, which was held shortly after that. On the 24th of May, I attended the Cabrillo High School Aquarium Board. Once a year meeting, we meet and talk about what's going on with the aquarium. On the 25th, attended a meeting with the Economic Vitality Team for Santa Barbara County and efforts to bring a small business administration office here to Lompoc. Teresa and I have been working on that one. We now have letters, proposals out to financial institutions to help fund that. So we'll see, hopefully here in the next month or two, we'll know what kind of funding is available to do that, to have an office at least part-time in Lompoc as well as Santa Maria, because we don't have that right now. All we have is consultants, but no one in an office that someone can come talk to. On that same day, we got a presentation from CASA, all familiar with court-appointed special advocates, gave the chamber a certificate. We helped get them started a number of years ago here in Lompoc, and now they've had tremendous success. And at that time, I was told that they had met 100% of the need for CASAs for Lompoc at that point. Now, that's always a changing number, but that was a pretty good thing. I was very happy to receive that plaque and award from CASA. On the 26th of May, I presented a scholarship at Cabrillo High School for the Youth Leadership Program, and do that every year to one of the high schools, not always Cabrillo. 29th of May, attended the Methodist Church 50th year time capsule of their new location. That was kind of interesting to see some of the things that came out of that time capsule and see some of the old pastors here in town. 7th of June, I spoke to the Kiwanis Club. I do that about once a year. I go talk to them about what's going on in town. On the 14th of June, I met with Explore Lompoc and the Military Affairs Committee for a check presentation. They're helping fund our Military Affairs Committee and the things they do here in Lompoc for Vandenberg Air Force Base. So we had a check presentation with the Wing Commander, Colonel Moss, and the Explore Lompoc board at the main gate at Vandenberg. Also attended on the 15th of June a ribbon cutting for Villa Gardens. It's a senior care facility up in Mission Hills, a new business here in town, and a very needed. Some of you attended the senior event at the Dewey Center a number of weeks ago know it's a huge concern and a huge issue in our community. So to have more facilities available for our seniors is a tremendous help. Attended the opening of the Veterans Court with Judge Flores, another exciting thing for Lompoc, the program he's doing to help our veterans through drug and alcohol issues rather than going to jail, to get them into programs to help straighten them out. So that was a good thing. On the 21st, participated in the EVA Awards presentations for Bellis Upholstery and for Jaspers. That's always exciting to recognize our businesses for doing good things in Lompoc. That same night, we attended the Beautification Awards at the Dewey Center, where we team up with the Beautification Commission to recognize businesses in town for window decorating and help promote Lompoc and beautify things around Flower Festival time. I know we'll talk about this a little bit here. Maybe I don't want to steal Michael's thunder here, but attended on 30th of June the Boys and Girls Club, the gold member cards the kids will receive, and I know he'll talk probably more about that in a few minutes. Of course, the 1st of July, Old Town Market started. That goes through the 19th of August. So far, 3 weeks into it. Been a tremendous success, and we appreciate the council members coming out and being there for the public. On the 2nd of July, we had a ribbon cutting for Maple Cottage, like an antique and collectible store on the 500 block of North Ocean. So I know Dwayne was there for that. Interesting place, more opportunities for people to walk around and buy stuff. On the 4th of July, of course, we had our Pops event in the park with the Lompoc Pops and bounce houses and food and all that, and that event was sponsored by our Explore Lompoc group. So it was a good event, huge turnout. Bike parade probably had at least 100 kids in the bike parade, so that was a huge success. Gosh, what else? On the 11th of July, had a picture opportunity taken with the YMCA. SIP Lompoc donates their money, their profits they make from their SIP Lompoc events. They donated the money this time to the YMCA. Let's see. On the 15th of July, I attended a Workforce Development Board meeting in Santa Barbara. We approved the contracts for the new one-stop in Santa Barbara County. That will affect Lompoc. It will be a benefit to Lompoc. So there's now a consultant that will be providing those services throughout the county, to including Santa Maria and Lompoc. So that was a very important process to get started under the new Workforce Investment Opportunity Act that Congress passed. And of course, tomorrow night is our annual Chamber Dinner and Awards, and I know some of you are coming to that, and I appreciate that. It should be a good night, a fun night, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Ken? Thanks, Ken.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next we're going to have let's see, an update from Visit Lompoc. Is someone here from Visit Lompoc? Mr. Patel.
It might be a little out of order, so I'll do the best as I can. So,
Paul, before you get started, are you going to, some people may not understand what Visit Lompoc is. You may want to just,
hey, I'm going to brief on
Okay,
that,
sure,
so
okay.
I could do that, and if there's questions, I can. Let's see. Mayor Lingle, City Council Mayor and staff. My name is Paul Patel. I'm president of Visit Lompoc, Explore Lompoc. I'm here to give you a brief presentation on the accomplishments of Explore Lompoc over the past 18 months. Our board consists of myself, Atul Patel as treasurer, Gilda Escalante as secretary, Doxa Patel, and Justin Barrick. Also, our advisors, Ken Ostini and Gilda Cordova. Visit Lompoc, I can touch on that. Visit Lompoc is funded by a bed tax of each guest that comes into the hotel of 2%. Those funds are collected by the hotels, sent to the city, and in turn, those funds are returned back to Explore Lompoc, which funds marketing efforts for Lompoc and promoting tourism in Lompoc. So over the past 18 months, when we started, what we did was try to identify markets that Lompoc could attract more tourism, and throughout our marketing how would you put it? I'm getting nervous here. Let's see, kind of lost me. Well, basically how we can have overnight stay to increase bed tax, which would increase tourism into Lompoc. I'm going to go through that. So over the years, in the past 18 months, what we did was we focused on, in our earlier stages, on print ads, which were through 805 magazines, Sunset, and some brochures that were put into certified folders in 51 locations. We also created a consistent ad campaign that when we advertise in the different magazines, that we would basically have a concept where people can come into Lompoc and explore the valley, and not just have a focus on whether it's the flowers or the wineries or that, but it gave us a different array of visitors to see what else is in around in Lompoc. These were the collateral materials that we have in 51 locations, which is through certified folders, also at the California Visitors Bureau. And these rack cards basically give an idea of what there is to do in Lompoc, and actually helps them to go to our website, which has most of the businesses in there to help promote Lompoc. These were little cards that we passed out. Basically, people collect them, and basically it's about Explore Lompoc. Some of the grants, we work closely with local organizations to help promote events that bring in an overnight stay into Lompoc, and over the last 18 months, we've awarded about $129,000 to local businesses, not businesses, local organizations. What we try to do is partner with them, use Explore Lompoc with the funding to promote Lompoc, and the key that is for overnight stay, because the feeling is if you come to Lompoc, spend the night, you spend a night in the hotel, you're going to eat at restaurants, shop in Lompoc, and etc. At the same time, what we also did was we invite travel writers throughout California to visit Lompoc, which Explore Lompoc pays for, and we have them spend a night or two and explore all the different murals and the La Prisma mission, and try to have them write stories about us in different magazines. And to date, we have stories written in all of these magazines. And so there's about over 30 stories that have been written and published in the different magazines. We also have about 500 pictures of local areas that we collect using local photographers. And these pictures is what we use in our marketing campaigns. These are some of the pictures that have been done by local photographers. We also have promotional collateral material, so if there's a big event, certain organizations can come to us and say, you know, we have this event that's going to be an overnight stay, and we'll provide them, depending on what type of event is, some of the collateral material. Some of them run from mouse pads, bikes, pens, bags, pens, and stickers, and most recently calendars. We've also, one of the key markets is when we first started, is to promote Lompoc through our Explore Lompoc website. That was the first thing that we created, and also with the social media, with Facebook and YouTube. Our website is a unique website. Since starting 18 months ago, we've had 61,000 unique visitors and 227,000 page visits. So people are becoming aware of what Lompoc is. What this resulted in from the years from 2014, 2015 was a 14% increase in TOT. So we took in 14% more bed tax revenue than we had the year before. We are looking at an increase this year, maybe not as dramatic because just the way the economy and tourism is going right now, but we do see an increase. Here's some of the numbers, how they've increased over the years. These are from 2013, 14, and 15, and we're working on the numbers for 2016. Moving forward, one of the events we've worked closely with is the Mural Society, and we've had a great collaboration with them. And we're working on, in October, a mural in a weekend, and we're working with them to not only promote it as a local event, but also promote it as an event for out-of-towners to come in and see Lompoc and you know, paint the mural. And so that is what what some of the events that we're planning on. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, doing.
A question I got, and I had someone ask, there's once in a while, and it's quite a bit here lately, there's been a lot of people on the street walking up and down the sidewalks. Is there any way that the ones in the motels could go ahead and have a bus ride to the restaurants, to something else? And other people were saying is that you'll see a crowd, the whole sidewalk is covered. If
Well-
somebody want to get there faster.
Well, some of those, I mean, it depends on each individual hotel's transportation of guests it's up to each individual hotel. Some of the guests that you see are, I'm particular at, between Holiday Inn, Motel 6 and Lompoc Valley Inn and Suites. Those are through buses. And through buses, they basically arrive in Lompoc at 6 o'clock. They've contracted already with local restaurants, contracted with some of our hotels. They spend the night, 8 o'clock. Most of these buses in the morning have gone. They usually between 6 and 8 o'clock, those buses are gone. But most of the transportation, it's up to each individual hotel, unless, there's a bus running that the city has. But most of the guests on the bus side, by 9 o'clock, they're asleep because they're on their way to San Francisco or on their way to Los Angeles.
The only other option would be is that on the ones that's going to stay the weekend, they would also tour them down to the wine ghetto.
Yeah, our hotel, my particular hotel that I run, doesn't have buses that stay overnight. Most of the buses that are here, I would say 99% of the buses that come through Lompoc are just, Lompoc fits into their driving pattern because they need their 8-hour, drive 8 hours, they have to rest a certain town, and the value for the money is why they stay in Lompoc.
Yeah, good. Well, that's good that we're looking at it, because I know every once in a while you'll see a whole lot of them on the road.
Yeah, each bus holds 55 people, so if you have 6 buses, there's 300 and something
And they're
people in.
all walking on the same street.
Yeah, but they do shop in
Yeah.
Lompoc. I mean, most of these are foreign tourists, and they'll walk. Walking to Walmart or walking down the street is what is normal. So walking a mile is pretty normal for a lot of these tourists.
A lot of them do. Like I said, originally when J.C. Penney's was still here, I worked there.
Yeah.
And they come in from France and every place to buy Levi's, and we
Yeah.
had to put a limit on how many Levi's they could buy because they would wipe us out in one
At
bus trip.
J.C. Penney and Mervyn's was basically every time the buses came, they were emptied out on their Nikes and Levi's, and because the value was there. I mean, for $30 you get a Levi's compared to you paying 35 euros or 35 pounds. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
okay.
Okay, now we're going to have a quarterly update by the Boys and Girls Club.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Baker, CEO for United Boys and Girls Clubs here in Santa Barbara County. Just to give you a quick overview on the scope of our organization, again, I try to come quarterly to give you updates. We have clubs, and we have a clubhouse in Carpinteria, Lompoc, as I'm sure you're aware of, our Goleta Clubhouse, and our West Santa Barbara Clubhouse, as well as Camp Whittier, which is on Highway 154 right near Lake Cachuma. We have a location at Campus Point at UCSB. And we have 3 after-school sites, as well as we're looking to expand as well into a little more into the valley as well. We're looking at some possibilities in the Buellton area, so that's something that we're looking at as well. I did want to report to you a couple things. First and foremost, I did want to acknowledge our interim club director that's here tonight, which is Devika Stalling, and Bianca Zook, who is the assistant club director. They're both doing an outstanding job at the club. I want to thank them for the work that they're doing. And also, we do actually have our treasurer for our board here, Louise Cruz. I want to thank you, Louise, for coming all the way up from Santa Barbara to be here for the report and see the kids get their special recognition tonight. We have our community council members that are an integral part here from Lompoc, and I know Ken Osteen was just already here speaking, and Mayor Lingle, you've been an integral part of that as well. I want to thank you for that. And certainly Chief Pat Walsh has also been an integral part of that and serves on our county board as well, and doing an absolute wonderful job representing Lompoc. We're still looking for another representative from Lompoc to serve on the county board, so if you know somebody, we're definitely looking for that. Our programs across the county we're major goal of wanting to serve more kids more often with more impact, and we're doing that. Our outreach efforts, which you've heard me talk about before, really what that entails is there's a lot of children that their mom or dad are able to get them to a Boys and Girls Club, and they can drop them off, or they ride their bike, or they walk, or however they get there. Those are what I call, those are the easy kids to reach. What about the kids who may live in a situation where they can't get to the Boys and Girls Club on a daily basis? They might live a mile or 2 or even 3 miles away, and they have no way to get to the Boys and Girls Club. Mom and dad would love for them to go there, but they can't get them to the Boys and Girls Club. We need to figure out a way to get those kids in our facilities. And I know I spoke with you about this a while ago, Dwayne, several months ago. Well, you're happy to report that we've been doing that, reaching out to areas, and over the past month and a half, we've done 2 community walks. We did 2 weekends in a row, targeting a very specific area here in Lompoc, where we want to pick kids up from that desperately need the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm happy to report that that's been going well, and we're averaging about 10 or 11 kids from that specific neighborhood a day that we're picking up. And that's a direct effort of the staff that are working with the kids every single day. And it's really a testament to the fact that we want to try to get those children out of that environment, bring them to the Boys and Girls Club, surround them with caring adult role models, give them special programming that they need, and make sure that they have a semblance of childhood while they're in the Boys and Girls Club. More important than anything else, we've been able to do all these outreach efforts and everything that we're doing across the county without having to increase fees to the kids or anything like that. We've been able to live within our budget. And as Louise can attest to, I think we stretched the dollar pretty well. I think we've done pretty well. And as an organization, I can tell you this, we're in much better financial shape than we've been in many, many years. The future's bright, and you know, they say, the expression is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not an oncoming train for this organization. I can promise you that. We're in much better shape. I always say that an investment in the United Boys and Girls Clubs of Santa Barbara County is the best investment you can make. An investment in our organization is an investment that will pay dividends for generations to come. And I really believe that, and you're gonna meet some of the children that are gonna be receiving the award tonight. We always are looking for more volunteers. So anybody that might be watching this at home, we can use more volunteers. We're really where we need a couple key volunteers are in the handyman or handywoman trade, if you would. The building needs some work, and if you know somebody that's in the construction field that can help the Boys and Girls Club, we desperately need it. Every penny that we save is a penny that we can invest in these kids and make sure that we have programs for them every day and keep our costs down. Tonight, it's really all about the kids, and we're here to celebrate what we consider participation, repetitive participation. We know, because we have Boys and Girls Clubs across the country, that a child, we created 2 different programs in our organization. We have our silver cards, and that's given to a child once they participate and come to a Boys and Girls Club 52 times in 1 year. They're given a silver membership card, and that denotes the fact that they've come to the club 52 times in that calendar year. So from January 1 to this point, they've already come 52 times. And we had several kids that achieved that status, not only here in Lompoc, but all over our organization. The gold card status that Ken was mentioning, we had a ceremony about 10 days ago. And with the gold card ceremony, that's for children that have already attended the Boys and Girls Club 105 times this calendar year. So the children that are here today have already come to the Boys and Girls Club 105 times this year. Okay, what we know as a fact, and we have concrete proof across the country because we have Boys and Girls Clubs all over the country, that a child that attends a Boys and Girls Club 105 times in a calendar year is twice as likely to graduate high school on time and lead a healthy lifestyle. So that's why we do what we do. We want to get the kids in the building as often as we can. So these kids are already well on their way. I mean, we're going to have to create, I don't know, maybe we'll call it a lingual status. I don't know what we're going to call it, Bob.
Platinum.
Yeah, there you go. Platinum. We'll go with platinum. We'll go with a platinum status for the kids that go 200 days. I don't know. We're going to do something. But I did want to thank you for your continued support, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Okay, well, stay there, Michael.
You got
because- Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I know, it's not a question, but the idea that in the number of young people that kids are using that bus system back and forth. Hancock, the school on the west side of town, that you're going down and picking them up after school, bringing them down there. And those kids are learning, they're picking them up. By doing that, that has one of the greatest things that's happened, is that Boys and Girls Club is all working together to do that.
Well, thank you. And I do want to say that we heard the pastor, when he made his the invocation, said it very, very well. But I want to thank the chief for everything he and his people are doing. When we walk the community, you want to talk about making a difference. That was very impactful, and you've got just an outstanding individual leading your police force here. And I love coming to this community, and it's in large part to a gentleman like that. And if it doesn't, I don't mean to overstep my bounds, but I want to give him a round of applause for everything that you do and everything your police officers do. He's going to be president of the board one day. I got to do that. I mean, that's got to.
Yeah. Okay, now, we've got some really special guests today. We're going to present certificates to these wonderful kids that obtained their gold card status. So why don't you come up here and stand on each side of the, sort of split the side of the podiums. If mom and dad want to come with them for pictures or something, you can come up with them. So maybe a couple on this side. There you go. Okay, there you go. You stand right there. And mom and dad stand behind them. Okay, so these are the kids, young men and women, that have attended the Boys and Girls Club at least 105 times so far this year. I think they deserve a round of applause right now. Okay, so you're going to receive a certificate today from the City of Lompoc. It says, in recognition of your achieving gold card status with the Lompoc Boys and Girls Club and making a solid commitment to school attendance and extracurricular activities. Okay, so Hayden, where's Hayden? That's here. Okay, here you go, Hayden. And Sonia, right there. Okay. And Kayla. Alia? Well, how do you say that? Say it. Alayla. Okay, that's a beautiful name. And Caleb. There you go. Braden. There you go. And you must be Tatiana. Okay, there you go. Oh, wait, we have any? Okay. And we have several that weren't able to make it tonight? There's a couple. Okay, so I'm going to give these to you. There's to you, okay. Okay, so kids, I just want to say how proud the entire city is of you. Yeah, we will, okay. Okay, we're really proud of you, so please keep up the good work. Encourage your other friends that are going to the Boys and Girls Club to come more often to get their gold card status, and I think I heard him say something about a platinum status pretty soon, so stay here for some pictures.
You gotta get in there, Mayor.
That is truly some of the best times of being mayor, is something like that. So children, thank you very much for being here. I expect you back here in 6 months with a bunch of your friends. Okay, next we're going to have Mr. Jack Rodenhigh, Chair of the Single Purpose Committee, report back on the Ad hoc Committee that was looking at the city's reimbursement study.
Mr. Mayor, City Councilman, I'm glad. On May 17th, you all appointed an ad hoc committee to consider a very important measure that you were considering passing. And I'm happy to report to you that we have finished our assignment in a timely manner, that during our 5 meetings we had really spirited debate about the merits and issues of the problem, and we had good input from the public, and we heard a lot of good input on ideas on how to resolve this, and I think we came up with probably the most important thing for you to consider before you approve the Enterprise Reimbursement Fund plan. And so because the debate was so spirited, I want to stick to just the exact wording of what it was that was decided in this morning's meeting. Committee direct Chairman Jack Rodenhigh to attend the City of Lompoc July 19th, 2016 regular City Council meeting and recommend to the Lompoc City Council to examine the current City of Lompoc reimbursement study in relationship to Article 13C of the State of California Constitution, the State of California Proposition 26 and Proposition 218, and acquire legal opinions from lawyers experienced in litigation with at least one opinion that supports and one opinion that opposes the City of Lompoc reimbursement study, and examine legal cases which relate to the City of Lompoc reimbursement study. Those legal cases are to include, but not be limited to, Redding, California, and Pasadena, California, and provide the Lompoc City Council a copy of all final minutes of the single-purpose committee meetings. So I think you received the minutes previously, so you can examine the things that we considered in our meetings. And I hope that you will take our advice and seek legal counsel from both sides of this issue.
Okay, and Mr. Fink, did you want to add to that? Mr. Fink was a member of the committee.
Right. My name is Ron Fink. I live in the city of Lompoc, but this evening I'm representing the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association. We were privileged to be part of the ad hoc committee, and we fully support the recommendations of the committee. However, there were some questions that we couldn't address within the context of our committee. There were a lot of questions we had, but we were unable to come to any conclusions or any suggestions as to what to do because we simply didn't have enough information. So what the Taxpayers Association is recommending that you do, we provided you with a letter with a list of our concerns. We would hope that you would consider these items during your deliberations on this. One thing that was pointed out is that there's another study in the city of Fullerton that comes to an exact opposite conclusion to the one in Lompoc. So one of those two studies is right, and we couldn't figure out which one was right because we just didn't have the information available. So once again, the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association concurs with the recommendations of the committee, and we would urge you to move forward on this and set a hearing date, and then we'll be back. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Rodenhigh or Mr. Fink? Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay, City Manager's report. I'm sorry, Councilman Starbuck.
I don't have a question for Mr. Rodenhigh or Mr. Fink, but they made some points. And I absolutely, after reading some of these documents and going through it and being very supportive of the ad hoc, I think on the staff report that's to follow this, that we should answer all the questions that the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association has. And I think that we should respect the ad hoc and go ahead and you know, have them do the study with Pasadena and Reading and look at some of this stuff. I mean, this would be something that, it's a big decision. The more information, the better the decision. So rather than just move on with it, I think maybe we should set some precedents on what we intend to discuss when this comes back before us.
Okay, would you like to, well, I think you just,
I'll move then.
okay, and,
I'll second.
Mayor,
and
Mr.
then
Mayor, if
Joe.
I may,
go ahead.
I think the only motion that you can do tonight is a motion to place this on the agenda to discuss it.
Okay. Okay, so is that your motion, place it on the agenda to discuss?
Well, absolutely. It's got to be voted on sometime.
Okay, good. And a second? Okay. Let's have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Mosby,
Aye.
Councilmember Starbuck,
Aye.
Councilmember Holmdahl,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Victor Vega,
Yes.
Mayor Bob Lingle.
Yes. Okay. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few comments that I'd like to make concerning code enforcement, particularly a story that occurred last week in the Lompoc record, but I'm going to reserve those comments if I can for when we discuss the code enforcement issue tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Public comment. This is your opportunity to speak to us on anything on the consent calendar.
Charles Summer. I am a resident in Lompoc, and I have the honor of sitting on Parks and Recreation Department. I took some pictures, which I gave to Keith. I'm talking as a citizen and as a Park and Recreation Commissioner. I think it was last year you guys made it a priority to deal with parks. And it seems that, you know, I know that there's certain projects that are going along and they're doing very well, but I think there's certain things that aren't being done that are easy fixes. And as a citizen, I won't be here for code enforcement conversation, and I want to make a mention of how the city should lead by example. And so I do have some photos that I'd like to see. So this is a brand new park. Our playground that was done with River Park. It's beautiful, lots of wood chips. Pretty much up to code. I know that the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission requires that wood chips be 9 inches deep. And I mean, I'm not one to audit it, but it looks sound. The next photo is Beatty Park, and any weeds inside of a sand area is a violation. And the next picture, you'll see this is Thompson Park. You'll see one of the renovations being done in the background. But all these wood chips are, you can see on this side, is deep. It's being pushed over to the side, almost overflowing out. The next picture, you can see under the slide, on this side, it's low and it's all the way down to the tarp. So there's 0 amount depth of wood chips. And the next photo is another portion of the same park where it's 0 inches deep. And then I have more pictures. That's also Thompson. I duplicated a picture. One more. And this is Westvale, which is in shambles. I know we've talked about it. And the last picture is just it, Westvale Park, and that playground is in an absolute deplorable state. So as a Parks and Recreation Commissioner, it's very disappointing that you guys have made parks a priority, yet there's been little or no action done to update some of the parks that are there to be seen as a priority. And then as a citizen, I know that the city manager will bring up the article that a woman feels targeted of code violations, but these are clear violations of standards for playgrounds, and the city really needs to lead by example and not be some sort of exemption. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Here's one question before you leave. You're sitting in a Parks and Recreation Board or Commission?
I am a commissioner, yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, has the Parks and Recreation ever sent anything to the council about this until tonight?
I bring up issues at the park with staff, and, you know, they say they'll try to get to it, but it's,
No, I'm just saying none of this information has been sent to the council. It's all been going.
it's all from me. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, now, again, we're on the consent calendar, so any public comment on the consent calendar? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment on the consent calendar, bring it back to the council. We're going to move forward to the consent calendar. Consent calendar, everything on the consent calendar is considered routine and will be approved by one motion from a council member with a second, unless a council member chooses to pull an item. Does any council member choose to pull an item from the consent calendar? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move we accept the consent calendar as printed.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to staff presentations. This is, first presentation is Community Development Program Manager, Christy Alicon.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and public. My name is Christy Alarcon. I am the Community Development Program Manager here at the City of Lompoc. On April 15, 2014, City Council adopted the subrecipient Financial, Programmatic, and Monitoring Reporting Requirements Policy. The policy requires an annual compliance report be presented to the City Council at a public meeting, at least annually, preferably at the second meeting in July. So we met the deadline. The first component of the annual report is the Audit, Compliance, and Findings Report, attached to the staff report as Attachment 1. This report was provided to the Economic and Community Development Department and City Manager on July 1st, 2016. You'll see here the report includes status of audit submittals. As you see, 5 of 6 agencies subject to the audit requirement submitted audits, with one agency, the Lompoc Museum Association, submitting a request to the Compliance Committee for audit exception, which was granted on August 6, 2016. The downgraded financial report was submitted as noted. All 6 agencies had no audit exceptions, and with regards to the 990 form submitted, no concerns with regards to that. The subrecipient compliance, subrecipient agency and activity monitoring, sorry, thought that was deleted. Subrecipient agency and activity monitoring consists of site visits to the locations where the activities are conducted. Listed here are the agencies visited. Monitoring began in October 2015 for agencies funded with 1516 Community Development and Human Services funds. Each site visit has 2 components, fiscal management component and program compliance component. All of the 1516 activities were compliant. If there were minor corrections that had to be made, they were made within weeks, and so they were compliant by the time the report was due to be produced. The multifamily affordable housing monitoring notices of inspections were sent out in early April. We started conducting the inspections around April 26th of this year. There are 18 multifamily properties included in the housing quality standards component of the monitoring review. They are listed here and detailed on attachment 3 of the staff report. Please note there is a typo with regards to number 4. Mark's house is not owned by Hugh and Mr. Hugh and Mrs. J. It's owned by Good Samaritan Shelter. Also, note that when you look at that attachment, there are 21 properties listed there. You'll recall that I said we only did HQS inspections on 18. And the reason for that is 3 of those properties, their regulatory agreements have no housing quality standards component to them. All we can really do is collect a rent roll from them and make sure they are not charging rents in excess of the affordable standards. 83 units were inspected in total. We had to do a lot of re-inspections this go round, so we still have 6 units with outstanding compliance issues, and those are listed in the staff report in detail as to what the compliance issues are. Those 6 units comprise 3 properties, and we've received documentation that the corrective actions have occurred, such as receipts from pest control or contractors going in and fixing doors or holes. But because we haven't been able to go out and conduct the follow-up visual inspection, I chose to leave them on the report as outstanding items until I myself can verify that they were done, just to be safe. So I wanted to add that we send out notice of no findings or a notice of corrective action plan required. That gets mailed out in June. We give them 30 days to get us something back as far as a corrective action plan. So not necessarily correct everything. If they can, awesome. If they can't, at least send us some documentation saying this is what we plan to do. And then we re-inspect those failed units, typically in August, definitely by August 30th, and then you'll see the corrective action was done in the semi-annual report that you receive in January. So you'll see an update showing all those units have passed and are habitable. The single-family affordable housing monitoring consists of annual confirmation of owner occupancy. There were 42 homes monitored, and this is an ongoing. We send these out in the beginning of the year, and then for some of them, their loans hit at different times of the year, so just so we don't go over an entire year without verifying them, you'll notice on the attachments, the dates aren't like just all one date. They're very much all over the annual process year, but we should never go more than one entire year without that date being updated. At this time, we don't have anybody that's renting a unit that's supposed to be owner occupied. We don't have any issues right now with those 42 loans. So we'll send these notices out again at the end of December, and hopefully we would have responses in January. So again, the January semi-annual report you receive will have an update on a lot of that stuff. But as of right now, everything's compliant. The commercial loan monitoring, the regulatory agreements have maintenance requirements. So currently, we only have one commercial loan that we had to do a drive-by inspection on, and that loan is listed on your attachment. We went by, it's clean, there were no big issues, so it's compliant. The second loan that we have is with Solving Brewing, and we really can't do much right now because they're not done. So we are working with him to document his job creation. Because he has two components, he has maintenance and he has job creation, you're going to see on that annual report a job creation number and retention. He has to, once he creates those 8 jobs, he has to continually report to us that those 8 jobs are still filled and they exist. So in my report, I didn't throw this number out there, but while there is no fiscal impact that's apparent through accepting this report, we're not paying a consultant to do this. This is all done in-house. There is a fiscal component related to staff time to conduct such a report. I have an amazing team. There's 3 of us, and we work really hard together in partnership with our Human Services Commissioners in some areas and with finance in some areas to get this report compiled with all of its components. So this is a conservative estimate. We weren't really tracking exactly all the hours we put into it, but we did our best to track what we typically should be doing. And so we have like an estimated cost for this year of $16,625. This does not take into account the re-inspections we'll have to do. That's more, and didn't really want to include it because I don't know how many times I'm going to have to go out. But the costs related to monitoring activities, it cannot be charged to CDBG administration. Resources for monitoring related to our multifamily former RDA loans had previously had property tax allocations available to fund that. That all went away in 2011. The revenue went away, but the obligation to monitor continues. So I just want to let you know that so you're aware of this continued obligation out there that doesn't necessarily come with a funding stream. So, in conclusion, combined, all of your spreadsheets and the written staff report provide a comprehensive reporting of the monitoring compliance requirements as described and required in the subrecipient financial, programmatic, and monitoring report requirement policy, Section B, number 6. Thank you, and I am available to answer any questions you guys may have.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Now that we're making affordable housing trust funds available for first-time home buyer, our intent should be at this point to go ahead and include that report once we start issuing first-time home buyer loans. Are we going to do that with this contract compliancy here?
Correct. So they will also be owner occupancy. So they're going to fall under that single family monitoring. So we have 42 right now. We're planning to add 20.
But those were CDBG improvement loans, though, wasn't it for that, or was that?
Some are CDBG, some are RDA, some are just no money. They're just inclusionary. So those are all single family units that we monitor the occupancy on. So I don't divide them out based on funding source. I divide them out based on what the regulatory compliance requirement is.
Okay.
Christy, I noticed in one of your reports, you mentioned that a tenant did not allow you access to the property. It said in there that that person was in the process of being evicted. What's the status of that?
The status on that, we have amazing laws that protect tenants regardless of what they're doing. And I believe he was at the 60-day mark. And so I believe he had about another 30 days before our property manager could legally get him out. We went with the property manager to that unit because we don't let the property manager select the units, we select them. And so that was our pick, lucky us. So we went there. He didn't want to let us in. And we went back at a later time, and the property manager was able to access the unit because he had noticed him. So then we've had the findings, and then we said, you need to correct these, call us when they're done. The girls went back to see what happened, and the guy wouldn't let them in. So we expected that because he was already in the eviction process. He had like an electrical line going into his apartment. He's not even paying for electricity. He's like taking it from somebody else. So it's soon enough.
Okay, so the eviction process was happening before he did
Oh,
not-
yeah.
So he was not being evicted because he, okay.
No, no.
Okay. Anything else for Christine? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we are now moving on to Administrative Analyst Laura Candy. Will provide a brief status update on the city's capital improvement projects.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Laura Candy, and I am the Administrative Analyst for the city. My presentation tonight will be an overview of the Capital Improvement Program, also referred to as the CIP, for the city's capital needs. Since starting the CIP in April, staff has devoted many hours to gathering information and evaluating the city's needs across all of the different city departments to determine a plan for the city's current needs as well as future ones. I would like to thank staff for their time and dedication to this project. We have held many brainstorming sessions, as this is no easy task. We'll begin with the overview of what will be covered in the PowerPoint slides presentation. So what is a capital improvement program, CIP? CIP process, CIP highlights, CIP notable projects, impact fees study, and our next steps. A study of 15-year projections of city capital needs to be used for impact fees, strategic planning, and a 6-year budgetary tool. That's known as the CIP. The 6-year budget tool, CIP, includes capital needs for the fiscal years 17-18 through fiscal year 22-23. Capital improvement projects are publicly financed assets, land, buildings, streets, and improvements. And there are assets valued over $30,000 with a useful life of 5 or over years. Our CIP process began April 2016, and all the requests were due by May of 2016. There was significant time and effort worked by all staff across the areas of the city to evaluate the city needs and project timelines. CIP precedes the operating budget process. The operating impacts of the CIP project are included in the 6-year fund forecast developed for the fiscal years 17-19 through 22-23 biennial budgets. The biennial budget will be starting in October this year. This is just a general overview, and it's kind of highlighting what we have so far come up with, a progress report. This is looking at our 6-year CIP. We have about a total of $165.9 million that has been an estimation of projects. We have no concrete amounts yet, with the total projects of about 173. And out of these 173, we're still determining what will make the final list and the priorities of them. As you can see in the pie chart below, transportation and aviation and enterprise utilities make up the largest share of the pie, roughly about 60% of overall projects. Our impact fees study is an extensive study of the community's theoretical long-term build-out that is derived from the following information sources. These are just examples of reports that are typically referenced for the comprehensive study. The general plan, including updates, zoning maps, master plans, master facilities plans, capital improvement programs, and other reports and plans. Planning statistics on the future population, ultimate land use, undeveloped parcels, and sizes of parcels will be used to determine the amount of growth to be anticipated. Existing land use and zoning data will provide a basis for evaluating the current situation. All of the 15-year projections of projects will be studied by a qualified consultant at a later time for possible adjustments to our current impact fees. There are many justifications a municipality can use to support the imposition of impact fees. All of these are regulated by the Mitigation Fee Act. It's Government Code Section 66,000, enacted in 1987 by the passage of AB 1600. This government code and the processes in developing the impact fees result in a pragmatic, fully transparent method of determining fees needed for future growth. Some sample projects, and please note this is not a comprehensive list, this is just a sample for the study, may include fire station, police facilities, park improvements, recreational facilities, infrastructure improvements, transportation needs, and utility demands. Our next steps will now be, we're going to be preparing a draft CIP document which details each project, and it will be included in our upcoming budget cycles. We'll be contracting a consultant eventually to perform an impact fee study. And we will be initiating the upcoming biennial budget fiscal year 17-19 in October of 2016 this year. And this CIP process that we're currently go through will now become part of each future budget cycle. So every 2 years, staff will be reevaluating projects for practicality and accurateness for the overall city goals and demands. That concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Questions for Ms. Candy? Councilman Starbuck.
When do you intend to present the CIP to the council?
This CIP is actually going to be coming up within our budget that's coming up, the biennial budget, so you'll be getting those projects at that time.
Okay, because I'm looking at 166 million. When you go and have the consultant do the impact fee study, what that could do with impact fees could chase off any development here. So I think that, keep us in the loop.
We are going to. This is just a preliminary, kind of a progress report of what we've kind of been up to. We've been trying to get all the projects from all the different departments right now.
Anything else from Ms. Candy? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next presentation is Planning Manager Lucille Breeze will give a status update on the proposed motorsports project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and staff. This evening, we're going to do our monthly status report for the motorsports project. Just a reminder that we do have the Department of Parks and Recreation State of California grant for $998,000 that we're working with. The status of the draft EIR, which is out for public review right now, and the public review period is open until August 15th. Any comment should be provided to the staff that there's on the city website. We do have a direct link where any comment can be sent directly to my attention. Those will all be sent forward to the consultant who will respond to comments, and those responses will become part of the final EIR. The status of the foundation funding. This is a list of the payments that the foundation has made to the city at this time. The additional funds are anticipated following the execution of the MOU Amendment Number 3. So once that is finalized and executed, we anticipate additional funds. Contract signed by the City of Lompoc for this project, for the CEQA work, for the NEPA work, for the ALP revision that are necessary at this point stand at $373,000. The status of the MOU, the draft is currently being reviewed by the foundation. Following the execution of the amendment by the city and the foundation, staff will be working with the foundation to formalize the transfer of funds from Phase 2 to Phase 1 for the environmental studies that are necessary. The status of the NEPA and the ALP, we are under contract with consultants to prepare the necessary documents. AECom, who is the consultant who prepared the current airport master layout plan, is working with the FAA, and their scope of work has been reviewed. On July 18th, the Meridian consultants, FAA, and the city staff had a consultation regarding the NEPA schedule, so we are finalizing that to make sure that these projects are moving ahead concurrently in the best manner that they can. We anticipate finalizing the protocol studies and the consultations that are necessary for NEPA in the next couple of months, and we will keep you advised as those are occurring. And then our next step, following August 15th, the close of the public review period, we will be looking at the responses that we receive and working on making, responding to those comments that we receive from the public and the responsible agencies to prepare the final EIR. And that completes my status update, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Breeze? Councilmember Starbuck.
Why did we sign the airport layout plan prior to the environmentals being done?
We signed the contract for the consultant to prepare it. It has to be prepared concurrently with the NEPA document.
Councilmember Stoll.
In all the process and the dollars and cents going in and out, what have we paid out of pocket by the city of Lompoc on this project, which is supposed to be done by the group itself?
Well, we have signed contracts in the amount of $373,000, and those are going to be able to be billed to the grant. And I believe our finance department has done some charge to the grant. Mr. Welke might be able to answer that.
Yeah, I'd like to know how much money out of pocket that we're using of city money of a project that was supposed to be paid by the motorsports sport group.
I don't have that number, but we can work on getting some information for you for the next update.
That'd be good. I'd like to hear that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Councilmember Vega.
Lucille, how much time will we spend on response to comments and once the EIR is complete or the review period?
Since we don't know exactly how many comments we're going to receive, we know that we did receive a large amount of comments on the notice of preparation, which we did not have to respond to, but we do anticipate a large number of comments, so there is probably a month built in there for the consultant to respond to those comments, and then the city to review them.
So any of the processes for the NEPA and airport master plan, everything is still moving forward regardless of this review period. Is that correct?
Yes, the NEPA and the CEQA are moving on separate tracks.
Okay.
So we are working, the same consultant is preparing, our environmental consultant is preparing the environmental documents, but they're moving forward at different tracks.
Okay, so the city's in a good position right now as far as moving forward and everything we need to do to facilitate the time period when it comes time for completion of all these documents.
We're moving forward, and we're having good communications with the FAA to make sure that we get them the information that they need to enable them to approve the NEPA document, since they are the lead agency on that document. And we have spent a good amount of time trying to coordinate everything so that it does move forward in a timely manner.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's see, just one other quick question on it. It's, everybody complains that we're not getting a lot of projects done. I'm not talking about this one. I mean, staff, just how much staff time is being put in to put this project together, which is not being funded for that too. That's still coming out of the pocket of the city of Lompoc.
The staff time that's being put forward on the Motorsport Park,
Yeah.
we do bill for the staff time. That is, we're tracking the staff time, and a great deal of that is going to go towards the grant. There is some that is not eligible for grant reimbursement, and we will have that tracked as well. But I don't have a number
That's
right
all right.
now.
Who's paying for it now? In other words, who's paying for that staff time now?
Currently, it's just regular administration.
City of Lompoc.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Breeze? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now moving on to oral communication. This is your opportunity to speak to us for 3 minutes on any item. If the item is currently on the agenda, you may want to hold it for that agenda, but you're willing to speak at this point.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is Lynn Whittemore. I appeared before you about 2 weeks ago in reference to a code enforcement problem I was having, and it was suggested that I contacted the code people. Well, that's the people I'm having the problem with. I have since then acquired a permit to tear down this building, and I called the building department to find out exactly where I measure this 18-foot setback. And the first words out of the inspector was, well, have you applied for a variance on this yet? I think, well, let's see. I applied for that damn variance or asked for it for 4 years. I can tell by this that you guys are quite busy with the city of Lompoc, from 300 to 900 people of varying degrees of BS. In regards to my yard, that 18-foot setback is over 25% of my yard on my side yard that the city controls. That excludes this utility setback and the setback on my neighbor's side and whatever the city has in front. I don't know about you, but I think that is excessive amount of property being controlled by the city on my lot that I'm paying taxes for. I think the city forgets that the city is not just building and the people here, but it's the thousands of residents that come here, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a home, raise a family, and hopefully retire here in peace and harmony and have a good life. And things like this does not make it like that. I realize this is going to be one of your topics, and I hope you think seriously about what is really important in this town. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Whitmore, real quickly. I may be mistaken, but since your last time here, I had checked with our department. I was led to believe that your issues were resolved. I understand right now that from you that they're not resolved.
No, well, I took out the permit, but I've been asking for some assistance here. I've tried to get an appointment with the city manager 2 weeks ago, and they'll get back to me. The assistant city manager did call me. I was spoken to by your legal aid, and she told me that no, the city has not beefed up their code enforcement, and then the next day, this comes out. So obviously, you guys don't have your ducks in a row here, and it's affecting us, the citizens.
Okay, so
I've got until September 5th to get this building out of there unless some cooler heads prevail.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, public at home. My name is Aaron Crocker. I represent the Lompoc grocery outlet here in town, and I wanted to take a few minutes of your time tonight to just discuss the proposed cart ordinance. We weren't aware of this at the time of the last meeting, and we read the article that came out in the record, and we did some research and read up on the proposal itself, and we wanted to give you our feedback now. And we understand that the vote isn't for another couple weeks, but we wanted to make sure that you guys had time to mull over our thoughts rather than speak just before the vote and then have the vote. We felt like that made more sense. So we're here tonight to talk to you. Our concerns are that this ordinance will increase the costs and the number of headaches that we will have to deal with on top of the cart collection that I already do. I spend hours each week driving around collecting our carts. It's not something that we really love doing, but it's something we have to do to make sure that our shoppers have shopping carts to shop in the store. This proposed ordinance will require us to have a plan, have this plan approved, make any amendments on the plan if needed, provide a progress report on that plan annually, and all of these things as we file to the city will come with filing fees, and not including the $1,000 per violation if we run into that, as well as the new cart ID tags that will have to be put on each one of our shopping carts. It's an additional cost to us as a business. It doesn't make sense to us because we don't feel like it's dealing with the root problem of the shopping carts out in town. While we do feel like they're our responsibility, that's why we're out there picking them up, we feel that homelessness, lack of proper transportation for low-income families, the elderly, and recyclers are the biggest problems here when it comes to shopping carts. We feel that if we attempted to tackle these problems, the shopping cart situation would handle itself. Beyond that, we would just wish that you take the time to consider the local businesses here, and my wife for her couple minutes has a couple solutions to bring to you as well. And maybe they work, maybe they don't, but we think that we need to say no to this proposal and come up with something that makes more sense for the city of Lompoc, for the community here, and for businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Alex Crocker. I also represent the grocery outlet here in town. As he mentioned, we had some concerns with the proposal, and I would like to take my few minutes to offer up some possible solutions. As he said, they may not work, but we feel like they're potential alternative solutions to this problem. Turning cart collection into an option for community service hours for the extra ones that are out there. We ourselves do pick up our carts, but we know that there are a few out there that do not pick them up regularly, and it is an eyesore and it is an issue in our alleys. But turning that into a community service option would be a good alternative, I think. Looking into some sort of low-cost alternative transportation for low-income families and elderly. We do have some public transportation in town, but it's not often that it drives by. We do have the Colt transportation, but it's not readily available for everybody, I guess. Enforcing the current rules regarding shopping cart theft, that it is a crime to steal the shopping carts and remove them from the property. While we understand that our law enforcement is very busy and tends to be understaffed, it's something that we feel should be enforced, and we would benefit as the businesses would benefit from this being enforced. So we think there's other solutions out there, and that it would help the city of Lompoc get rid of their shopping cart issue in the alleys and blocking the roadways, and also help us as a business for not being penalized for people stealing our property. Thank you.
Ms. Crocker, real quickly, thank you for coming with alternatives. I mean, it's always nice when someone just doesn't complain.
Of course.
So thank you for that. We're all troubled with this. We want to find a solution. So
Of course.
Again, thank you. Question for you, though. I've been told, maybe other council members have been told, that occasionally a store owner will give a customer permission to use their cart and ask them to bring it back. Do you ever do that, or your store, or do you know if the other stores actually give the customer permission, naturally ask them to bring it back? Is that?
Right. As far as our personal store, we don't. If there's a customer, we have given rides to people, certain elderly people that live nearby. We've given rides to some different homeless people that we've caught trying to take our carts off the property, and offered them a ride to wherever their location was. And we've done that multiple times since we've been here, but we don't give permission to take our carts off the property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Bruce Mayer. I'm a resident here in South Lompoc, and I am not a representative of Grocery Outlet. But I would like to speak on this ordinance a little bit. I was kind of surprised when I first read about it, although I have been aware of this problem. When I shop locally, I see people leaving the lot, and I always scratch my head at how somebody can buy $50 worth of groceries and take somebody's $200 cart, and how does a business stay profitable with that kind of a profile going on? But I never really knew how to address it. I didn't really want to personally get involved with the individual, but I really feel that the message that this ordinance would direct towards business is very unfriendly, and I hate to see any businesses having a harder time than they already do in Lompoc. One of the things when we bought property here, I was very optimistic that I'd see this town grow and businesses flourish, and anything that stands against that really concerns me. So that's why I'm here tonight. And the other aspect of this that I really feel sends a wrong message is the theft. And I understand that some people are having a hard time and they may not have a car, or this may be their solution to their problem, but I really believe that it is theft. And while I don't believe in finding or locking up an elderly person for a first offense, but I wish that the city council would encourage maybe a progressive sort of enforcement on a warning basis, maybe progress to finding if the warnings weren't working. But I watch it happen, and I just say, why do people do this? This is a wrong thing that's happening, and why is it happening? Why isn't law enforcement stopping them and saying you can't take other people's property? And that's really the long and short. I had quite a few notes written, but I really think I'll keep it to that, because that's my primary concern, is that I feel that the message is just very wrong here, both to the business owners in our community and to the people, where we are essentially condoning the theft and making excuses for it because they're having hardship or they may not have a car. And I really don't think that's a good excuse. I really don't. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Sewell. I'm born and raised in Lompoc and a small business owner. And I've been trying to find a nicer phrase when I heard about this shopping cart ordinance, but the phrase that keeps going around in my head is just, it's a bafflingly dumb idea. I don't understand how this idea got past the idea phase. I mean, to put the onus on the business owner makes no sense to me at all, especially for such an issue that's not all that important considering some of the big issues we have in town. So someone comes into my house and steals my big screen TV, and they ditch it in a back alley somewhere where it's not supposed to be. And the first thing that Mayor Bob thinks is, that's Mike's TV. I need to fine him $1,000. That doesn't make any sense to me in any way. I understand because I watched the city council for the last time that it was proposed by the city manager, and this idea that, oh, well, we can put this in place and then just not use it. Anytime you put a precedent and put a law or an ordinance on the books, it can be used to punish people as you see fit. And we don't punish people in town. We're a neighborly town. That's Lompoc values. We help each other. I think some of the ideas have been offered are great. We could also do something like a graffiti squad and have a cart squad, have a volunteer force that goes out and picks up carts on, one day a week. A lot of people have trucks in town. It wouldn't be that hard. We just don't punish our neighbors for things that they are not responsible for. It is theft. It's been acknowledged as theft. And no, we're not going to ticket homeless folks, but there's got to be a better solution. And also, every issue's been talked about as far as money goes. I mean, the city manager, as an example, not picking on you, makes $16,000 a month. $16,000 a month in salary, that's over $100 an hour. And I heard his very long, lengthy explanation the last council meeting. That's just his salary. How much money has already been spent, taxpayer money, on this really dumb idea? So, Mayor Bob, as leader of the council, and I'm not picking on anybody, but you're the leader of the council, you're the mayor. It just seems that once again, this is officious rules and regulations taking precedent over more important ideas. And there's no issue we have facing Lompoc that's more important. I mean, every issue in Lompoc is bigger than a few shopping carts, is my point. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tyne Camfield. I'm a Lompoc resident. I'm here in support of Grocery Outlet and other small business, as well as the poor, poverty-stricken people in Lompoc and the homeless, which seem to be the most users of the shopping carts. Whether this is your ultimate motive or not, it seems like it's an attack not only on small business, but also the poor. I would like for the city council to reach out to the groups that you guys already know are here that help the people on the streets, you know, Central Coast Coalition to End Homelessness, Transition Mental Health, Planting a Seed, all these organizations that are out there every day coming up with resolutions to solve these problems. I feel like they could probably help you guys come to a better resolution than a $1,000 fine for our small businesses that are already struggling. The other concern that I have during conversations about this ordinance is that it seems that the cart company knew about this ordinance prior to it coming to the city council, because from what I found out, it seemed like in the past month or couple weeks prior to the city manager's proposal, they had gone out to grocery stores to kind of pursue these contracts. So that to me seems a little bit like a conflict of interest for them to know prior. And it also seems that the number that was given of the 12 stores was potentially inflated by that, because some of them are more recently contracted with this company. So I feel like if we give it a couple months to see if that pans out, if this company can pick the carts up now that they're newly contracted, or if you can find out when they were contracted with this company. The other issue that I have is that if some of them had been long-term contracts, is why the company was not picking up the carts. Ultimately, it seems if they're the ones with the contract in the city, they should have the burden to pick them up. I'd like to also give another resolution. I believe that we could fix this by potentially using not only community service, but there's some cities that use the homeless and the people who are looking for jobs to do this type of work. Like they're talking like a graffiti committee, but you could go out and get carts and they could be then paid per cart pickup or an incentive. Some of them use, where I grew up, Madison, they are using the homeless to, I shouldn't say using the homeless, but employing the homeless to pick up the city, pick up the garbage and all of that. So I feel like, again, if you reached out to those people that are on the streets, they could give you a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Council members. My name is Deanne Carr. I'm a resident. I have three things. The first thing is not shopping carts, but the shopping cart report. The step one of any public policy is needs assessment, and I didn't see a needs assessment. And a couple of paragraphs start with the statement, many cities. Many is not a number. So if it's 30 cities, then 22 of the 30 cities reviewed, or some specific statement of number. Many is a description, it's not even a conclusion. So I wish that, I want to speak now about that because I hope the report can be amended to show that specific number rather than many. The final two things real quick is on the website, any documents that go up for the public to print, to examine, it would really be nice if they had a white background. Otherwise, it's really terrible to print them out. My curiosity is why we're not getting minutes up on the website. There's always a video link, but the video is not searchable. There's no timestamp, so search that marks a timestamp. And I know the council is getting the minutes, so they're being typed. And it doesn't make any sense. Now, if the problem is manpower, you just hired a public information officer. What else does a public information officer do other than put public information on the public information website? So, please.
Okay, real quickly.
Yes.
Minutes are on the website. The same page you go to with the council agendas, there's also the minutes. Now, they're not posted at the same time because they're not ready. For instance, the minutes from our last meeting, we didn't approve them today because they're not available.
Right.
But they are posted on the website, right on the same page as the agendas.
The city council minutes, they're the agendas, but there's no minutes. Not since May, I think, 7th. There are no minutes, just video.
Okay, well, we'll check on that, but they should be on that same page.
Okay, please.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
My name is Sylvia King. I have a home here in town and shop here in town, and am concerned about what would happen if this plan that you have goes through, because it means all our grocery prices most likely would go up if grocery outlets or other stores like that have to figure in the prices of a large fine. And it seems like common sense has gone a little bit out of the window. I mean, normally you penalize the person that does something wrong, not the person that's being robbed, or in this case, if someone steals a grocery cart off a lot that isn't supposed to leave there, it's the person that's walking away with it that should be fined, not the owner of the store. Just seems like common sense. And, I don't think we can afford to lose any more businesses, so please consider this. And, we as seniors need to keep those prices down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jane Bear. Gentlemen, I'm here again to ask you to schedule a public workshop to discuss transparency and ways to increase participation in city government. Mayor Lingle, will you allow me to ask right now if there are 3 council members who will support putting this on the agenda?
You can ask that, and then at the end of the meeting, when the council requests come up, 3 council members can approve this. Okay.
Okay, but you won't allow me to address them right now?
You can address them right now, and then they've got a copy of this.
Okay.
Okay, if someone wants to bring it up during council requests.
Okay. Then, let me spend these couple of minutes to remind you why I am not going to let this go. The Santa Barbara County District Attorney's Office, in a letter dated June 16th, has informed you that you violated the Brown Act by having a closed session meeting on September 16th, 2015. Mayor Lingle, when you were asked about this by members of the press, you explained that this was due to a difference of opinion between the city attorney and the county district attorney. To me, that means you are still committed to following the advice of the city attorney and having closed sessions, even though the district attorney would tell you that it's against the law. And the Brown Act, of course, is only one aspect of your problem. Your problem is a process problem, and the shopping cart ordinance is just one more example. You create an ordinance without getting any feedback from residents who would be affected. Makes no sense. The placement of this podium is another example, I believe, of your lack of commitment to public participation in city government. Did you know, Mayor Lingle, that you and the city manager do not have the authority to move this podium to the center of the room? The city attorney, you're supposed to be the parliamentarian, right? You're supposed to make sure that they follow their own rules. The city council handbook, I'm quoting here, A7, use and arrangement of council chambers, council seating, and other physical arrangements for council meetings in the council chambers are at the discretion of the council, not the city manager, not the mayor, but I'm pretty sure that none of you have discussed this in public. Please don't tell me you did it in closed session. I want the podium back. I don't want people looking at my butt. It's very uncomfortable. It's intimidating. But that's the purpose of moving it, right? To be more intimidating?
No, but please wrap up.
I'm done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close public or oral communication, and we're going to move on to appointments. Okay, there's a misprint on the agenda. We are only doing appointments to the Economic Development Committee. Let's see. We have two openings. One is an at-large term ending February of 2018. The other is an at-large term ending February of 2020. We have 3 applications. Has everyone had a chance to review the applications? Okay. I'd like to nominate one of them. Mr. Robert Traylor is currently an alternate to the Economic Development Committee, and I'd like to nominate him for the one at-large term ending February of 2020.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that? Then let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Mr. Traylor, I see you in the audience. Would you like to come forward or just accept the nomination? Okay, very good. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have one other term ending. It's an at-large term ending February of 2018. Does anyone have a recommendation?
I'll go ahead and make the recommendation.
Okay.
Good, sir. Mr. Henry Galena for the other term that expires in 2018.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second, glad to.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. And that passes 5-0. I don't see Mr. Galena in the audience. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, before we go on to the public hearing, I think we will take a 5-minute break.
you say. Step aside, partner, it's my day. Bend an ear and listen to my version of a really solid Tennessee excursion. Pardon me, boy, is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Yes, yes, track 29. Boy, you can give me a shine. Can you afford to board the Chattanooga choo-choo? I've got my fare and just a trifle to spare. You leave the Pennsylvania station about 3:45. Read a magazine and then you're in Baltimore.
Dinner in the diner, nothing could be finer
than to have your ham and eggs in Carolina. When you hear the whistle blow and 8 to the bar, then you'll know that Tennessee is not very far.
Shovel all the coal in, gotta keep it rolling.
Woo woo Chattanooga, there you are. There's gonna be a certain party at the station.
Satin and lace,
I used to call Funny Face. She's gonna cry until I tell her that I'll never roam. So Chattanooga choo-choo, won't you choo-choo me home? Chattanooga, Chattanooga, get aboard, all aboard. Chattanooga choo-choo, won't you choo-choo me home? Chattanooga choo-choo.
If I can get everyone to take their seats. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7, which is a public hearing considering the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve a general plan amendment, General Plan 1201, zoning change, and let's see, 1201, vesting tenant map. So Lucille Breeze.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This, as the mayor indicated, is consideration of a Planning Commission recommendation to approve a general plan amendment, a zone change, a vesting tentative map, the proposed preliminary/precise development plan, and a development agreement for the Summit View Homes residential development. The adoption of the resolutions as listed on your staff report. The Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding this project, and they, on June 29th, and recommended that the council receive the recommendations, hold a public hearing, and adopt the resolutions 6063, parent 16, approving the general plan amendment, introduced by first reading with further reading waived, ordinance number 1623, parent 16, approving a zone change, and adopt resolution number 6064, parent 16, approving the proposed vesting tentative subdivision map, adopt resolution number 6065, parent 16, approving the proposed preliminary precise development plan, and the addendum to the Summit View Homes final environmental impact report, and introduced by first reading with further reading waived, ordinance number 1625, parent 16, approving the development agreement and authorizing the city manager to sign the development agreement. The Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, approved the annexation on January 7th, 2016. This was a project that was part of our general plan expansion and was discussed during the general plan update. The project will be serviced by the Mission Hills Community Service District for water and wastewater, but the city will provide police, fire, electric, and solid waste services to the project. A development agreement is being proposed, has been negotiated with the developer to establish a community facilities district. It's the first community facilities district that the city has actually had in part of our developments, and it is to make sure that there's adequate funding to maintain public infrastructure along the face of the frontage of the actual development. There will also be a homeowners association to address the private roads and the landscaping, the common area inside the development. But this actual development agreement will alleviate the need for general fund money to support the infrastructure improvements as they occur through the years. So it is it's a great thing, and the developer has agreed, and the copy that you have in your report has been signed. So if the council determines that they are going to accept it, then the city manager will sign it and it will go into effect. The Planning Commission did ask that in reviewing your decision this evening, there was discussion regarding the mitigation measures, the traffic mitigation measures, and the commission is concerned about the actual impact on the intersection at the Y of Prisma Highlands and the Harris Grade Road. Now, the council had in 2014, the council had adopted an ordinance for the Burton Ranch project based on revised traffic study, based on analysis and based on the determination by Caltrans that Caltrans, since that is a Caltrans intersection, Caltrans would not authorize a permit for improvements that were required by the EIR. So the council agreed that those improvements would not be necessary or would not be enforced because they were infeasible because Caltrans would not issue the permit. So when we were looking at the Summit View homes and bringing that forward, that same mitigation measure was involved there. And what we did was requested that the Planning Commission that be struck. The Planning Commission understood that, however, they did want the council to just be aware. They were concerned with traffic in that area with the new development that is occurring. Additionally, they wanted that the council be advised that there's a need for some additional architectural treatment, and they wanted those homes that are the 44 homes to be developed in a way that they were consistent with the existing homes that are up in that area. So they provided direction to the developer to work with staff to assure that the architecture and the treatment that was provided would be applicable and they would all conform with the neighborhood. So we've spoken with the developer and he has agreed to that, and we will do that during the plan check process. The Planning Commission resolutions and the minutes were all attached to your package, and we have, I think that goes through everything that we have. If there's any additional information that you require from me, we do have Mr. Steve Hester, the developer, here this evening, and he would like to address the council for a few moments.
Sure. Yes. Mr. Hester?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Stephen Hester. I represent Some of You Homes LLC, one of the owners of the project. I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank Patrick Y. Miller and Lucille Breeze and Teresa Galvin for their hard work and effort on this project. As you know, this has gone through a pretty arduous process, and just getting it into the city was pretty tough, and there was a lot of work done by staff and the mayor and Councilman Starbuck in the ad hoc committee with the county in negotiating that. I'm here, we're pleased to be a part of the city, looking forward to getting this project going. And tonight I'm here just to answer any questions you might have or respond to any comments that might come up.
Councilman Starbuck.
I'm just going to make a couple of comments, Mr. Hester. First thing, you know, you've been through this for a long time, and I got to say that I hate the precedence that was set with the county on this, with their lack of ability to negotiate fairly with the city, forcing you to come up with the community service district, basically, the $93 per unit additional and stuff. That really troubles me that we have to impose that on you to make it a neutral generation, you know, basically. I did want to mention the traffic mitigation. We've been through this. You got to remember, Caltrans is all-knowing. You're not going to convince them of anything else until the level of service reaches an F. So it's the way it is, and it's the way it's going to be for several years. And the other thing is, I have absolute faith that you're not going to build ugly homes up there. It doesn't do you any good to build an ugly home because nobody wants to buy an ugly home. So this should be minimum staff time involved in that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your perseverance.
Certainly. And I'd like to echo what Councilmember Starbuck brought forward. Thank you for your perseverance. We welcome the new homes that you're going to be building. I also agree that they're going to be beautiful. But the question that keeps coming up, when? And I know you probably don't have a definite answer, but when can people put a bid in on your homes?
Well, we'll take bids tonight, but a realistic estimate would be to get, because we need to do the final engineering, final architecture, final construction drawings, and that's a process that takes some time, would be that this project would start in approximately a year. And I think that would be a reasonable time frame to work through all those things with the city and their plan check process. So in a project like this, from beginning to end, if market conditions held, and I don't control those, if I did, I probably wouldn't be up here talking to you tonight, but if market conditions hold, this size project is about a 2.5-year project once you break ground from start to finish. Obviously, the first phase of homes would be finished in the earlier part of that time frame. So roughly 18 months to 20 months or so, plus or minus, when the first phase of homes I would expect would be completed.
Okay, good, thank you.
Also, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Vega.
I'd like to say thank you also, okay? The growth is badly needed here in Lompoc, and the variety and the choices that in order to attract employers or even people that are moving here, you know, on the economic development side is crucial. So I'd like to thank you. Okay, the growth is badly needed, and I think that everyone here in Lompoc that's either being stationed on the base or anybody that's moving here is going to appreciate some growth, which will give some movement to our business community and our proactive direction that we have here. So thank you.
Welcome. Councilmember Holmdahl.
Well, along with that, I think everybody said everything, but the one thing too is the developers who are on the west side of Harris Grade may see that you come to town, it can be done, and they can go ahead and start making their development.
Yeah.
And that's going to help that whole corner. And we've been looking at that for many years. So thank you very much.
Certainly. Okay, anything else? Okay, with anything for Ms. Breeze? Okay, then we're going to go to public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this?
John Lynn, Lompoc resident, council members, mayor. You know, I think all of us here are in favor of this project, and as has been pointed out, they have gone through a tornado to get to this point. I hope all of you vote this evening to move the project forward. It is an outstanding project. Personally, I want to thank our council ad hoc committee that worked with the county when they didn't really want to work. Appreciate your diligence. Surely our city administrator who carried this on his back all the way forward. So today is a victory of sorts, and I agree with the council member that said, you know, it's kind of sad that we're setting a precedent that now homeowners have to pay a share because the county doesn't want to offer an equal split. But, you know, 98% of progress is still better than 0% of progress. Thank you very much. Your vote to move this forward.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Councilmember Humdahl.
Mr. Comments on it, I'll go ahead and move the recommendation of staff on this project and let's get it going.
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. Surprise, surprise, 5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Hester. Okay, move on to item number 8, which is a public hearing to protest the sales of certain city-owned property. And this is Administrative Analyst Laura Candy.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Laura Candy, and I am the Administrative Analyst for the city. I am returning to Council tonight for the required public hearing regarding the 5 city-owned parcels previously discussed and approved by Council to sell at the Council meeting held on June 21st, 2016. The addresses of these properties are 518 North T Street, 1404 and 1408 West College Avenue, and 110 and 114 South K Street. In accordance with Resolution Number 605916 that was approved at the Council meeting on June 21st, staff has followed the procedures required for a city to sell the real property. If no protests are received by Council, or if any protests are received and the Council overrules the protest by a 4/5 vote, the city may proceed with the sale. If 4/5 of the Council does not vote to complete the sale, further steps will not be taken for a period of 6 months unless a special election is called, which can be done by the Council with a majority vote and adoption of an ordinance to call and fix a date for a special election of the electorate. If the Council approves the sale tonight, then by adopting Resolution Number 606116, they would authorize the city manager to take the necessary steps to sell the properties with the city's real estate consultant. Staff will then return to the Council for approval of final sale and purchase agreements. That concludes my discussion. I'm available for questions.
Councilmember Vega. Councilmember Vega.
Sorry, I just...
Okay. Councilmember Humdahl.
Right, but, yeah,
Councilmember Humdahl. Councilmember Humdahl.
You got it right this time? Yeah. The one thing I'd like to know too is that you've worked real good on, I'm happy we have it because I brought this up a year ago and we're finally getting to it, is that what has the other property owners, or what about the real estate agents? Has there been any negative comments for a change, or are they going to be all supporting it so they can sell something?
I haven't heard anything negative at all about any of it.
Good.
I think it's been
I'm real happy to see it done.
well accepted, yes.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Well, we're finally going to put something back on the tax rolls here. I guess the question is, the profits from this sale are going to go to?
The funding source that it was originally used.
Okay, and is any of this, do you happen to know, just general fund purchase?
No, we have, let's see, 110 and 114 South K Street would be a general fund. The rest of them are going to be actual housing.
CDBG purchase and
Yeah, back
RDA.
to the successor agency.
Anything else from Ms. Candy? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Councilmember Starbuck.
I'll move staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to new business. This is item number 9, adoption of resolution number 6066, parentheses 16, adopting mitigated negative declaration for San Ynez Riverbank stabilization. And this is is Craig Deering, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Craig Deerling with the City Engineering Division. And just to give you a brief overview of this project, it is to install a riverbank stabilization system between Pine Avenue and North Avenue along the base of the riverbank. And it's been in the works for a number of years, finally taking little steps through the process. The project, this phase of the project has been approved for a FEMA funding grant, so the design and the environmental is primarily being funded by FEMA. So at this point, the city has completed preliminary design and the CEQA process and has found that there is no substantial evidence the project will have a significant effect on the environment with implementation of the identified mitigation measures. Therefore, the staff recommendation is adoption of resolution number 6066-16, adopting the mitigated negative declaration for the San Ynez Riverbank Stabilization Project, which is attachment 1 of the staff report, and approve the project or provide alternate direction. I'm open for questions.
Councilmember Starbuck.
This project here, if I recall, several years ago, we had a presentation done from a consultant on various ways to do the riverbank stabilization, and this is to refresh myself. We decided at that meeting that we were going to do the cable vegetation type of. Are we talking about the same thing?
You're correct, yes. This is a vegetative system primarily that's reinforced with rows of piles connected with cables.
Right, and for years, we never did receive this funding.
Yeah, it took a long time to get the grant to come through.
We got it now.
Right, yeah. So FEMA approved the phase 1 portion of the grant for design and environmental, and upon completion of the environmental documents and resource agency permits, then FEMA will consider phase 2, and in discussions with them during phase 1, it's sounding hopeful, so we're looking forward to moving into phase 2.
You know, there's something in the fiscal impact here that mentioned the city identified funding of the local match. We don't know how much that is though yet, do we?
Well, there was an estimate presented to the council probably each time it came to council for approval to submit a grant application. So there were funding estimates made at that time and sources identified, and it looks like I think I have two meeting dates in here that the council last heard the item. I think when the council approved the grant was June of 2012. I think it was the first meeting maybe in June of 2012. So that meeting probably has.
Right, so basically we've held the money since then, the match money. I mean, it's available. We're not all of a sudden digging into reserves or something to come up with the city's match on this. We've had this money sitting, waiting for this project to come in.
Yes, we've had identified sources, yes.
Mr. Deerling, real quickly, just for people that may or may not be aware of what we're doing, I know you described the area, but this is the area where in the past, when we've had flooding, we've actually lost acres of land along the river bend. Is that correct?
At this location, it hasn't been as many acres as a location further north, but yes, in the past, during significant flows, there has been a lot of sloughing. This location is a little bit taller along Riverside Drive between Pine and North, so it's tall and steep, and during the last significant flow that I remember a few years ago, there were trees that went down and a bit of the bank, and the city installed signs along the path saying, stay away, unstable slope, things like that.
And this is the area that potentially, if untreated, we could lose our walking path, bike path along there? Is that?
Right, yeah, and it could go further than that if it was enough flow.
Okay, well, a couple of years late, but I'm glad it's happening now. And maybe, thank goodness we didn't have the El Nino we could have had. We may have lost even more, but next year the El Nino is coming, so let's get it done. So, okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council.
I'll move staff recommendations.
I'll second it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, council request. This is item number 10, update on the current City of Lompoc Code Enforcement Program. This is requested by Councilmember Mosby. And, okay. Councilmember Mosby, you wanna, oh, I'm sorry. Is someone gonna address this, or Councilmember Mosby? Oh, okay, there we go, okay.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, public that's in attendance, and those watching at home, good evening. I'm Steve Boggs, Senior Code Enforcement Officer with the City of Lompoc. Tonight, I am pleased to present to you an update on the City of Lompoc Code Enforcement Program and also seek redirection from council as deemed appropriate. At the June 21st, 2016 City Council meeting, Councilmember Mosby asked staff to return to council with a discussion of changes to the code enforcement program. Councilmember Mosby stated he had requested discussion of how code enforcement had been modified from complaint-based to all hands-on. So just a little bit of background about the program. At the May 1st, 2012 City Council meeting, Council adopted ordinance number 1584, parens 12, on a 4-to-1 vote. The ordinance went into effect on June 14th, 2012, and it was codified as Chapter 1.36 of the Lompoc Municipal Code. The code enforcement program consists of complaint-based code enforcement as well as a comprehensive staff-initiated component for violations of the Lompoc Municipal Code, Section 17.140.010, which is maintenance of property nuisance conditions. The complaint-based code enforcement process is initiated when staff receives a confidential complaint from a member of the public concerning violations of the Lompoc Municipal Code that are not clearly visible from the public right-of-way. Violations such as substandard housing conditions and construction performed without permits are addressed through the complaint-based process. So substandard housing be conditions such as lack of heat, lack of hot water. They're things that you wouldn't see. And in code enforcement, we don't go door to door, knocking on people's doors, seeking out those types of violations. We don't. And so that is generated by a written complaint. Now about the complaint form. The complaint form is available on our website. The complaint form is available over at the building counter here at City Hall. We do run across individuals that can't make it into City Hall. We have individuals that don't have internet access. So what we can do is we can mail them a complaint form with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and then they return it to us that way. Gone out to sites and provided people with the complaint form as well. Now for the property nuisance code enforcement, property nuisances are defined in Lompoc Municipal Code Section 17.140.010. And when they're visible from the public right-of-way, they can be reported using a complaint form. We often receive complaints that way. They can be received by phone. Council also directed staff to initiate code enforcement action when a violation is clearly visible from the public right-of-way. That includes those visible in the areas when code enforcement staff responds to a citizen complaint. Now for discussion, the code enforcement team meetings were reinstituted on September 22nd, 2015, following a hiatus from 2012. They're held once per month. The intent is for departments and divisions within the city to have a better understanding of the resources available and how complaints can be directed to the appropriate department for action. Often, there are cases where multiple departments or divisions interact to resolve situations. The reinstitution of the CET meetings has allowed staff to maximize the use of limited resources, as well as report conditions that are observed within the community. Code enforcement diligently attempts to achieve voluntary compliance with the provisions of the Lompoc Municipal Code. Enforcement staff does not have authority to grant exceptions to zoning, planning, or encroachment requirements of the Lompoc Municipal Code. In instances where property owners have encroached into the public right-of-way, a covenant to encroach issued by the engineering division and recorded with the county clerk is required. California building code violations may require demolition permits, building permits, plumbing permits, electrical, mechanical, to meet the requirements of state law, which is adopted by the Lompoc Municipal Code. Overlooking zoning law can lead to multiple violations throughout the community. In instances where existing violations have not been enforced or corrected, they may be duplicated on surrounding properties by residents who are unaware of Lompoc Municipal Code requirements. There is a chart included with the staff report, and to be brief, July 1st, 2011, this reporting period through June 30th, 2012, 307 code enforcement cases were opened, 392 cases were closed. In the most recent reporting period, July 1st, 2015 through July 30th, 2016, 915 cases were opened, 908 cases were closed. I did check this evening before I came in, this number 241, right now it's 233 cases that are currently active in our code enforcement. In conclusion, staff has followed council direction to operate a complaint-based code enforcement program, as well as staff-initiated action taken when a violation is clearly visible from the public right-of-way. Where possible, staff from various departments and divisions who observe obvious conditions of the Lompoc Municipal Code, obvious violations of the Lompoc Municipal Code, while performing their regular duties, will report a violation. That complaint will then be investigated for substance in the same way as a complaint received from the public. The intent and goal is to follow the council direction and to be as efficient as possible with limited city resources. Staff seeks any further direction council deems appropriate. And we also do have a PowerPoint presentation. There we go. Now, this is a list showing the city council priorities, which were established February 24th, 2015. I'm sure you're all very familiar with them. Number 4 is code enforcement and graffiti. These are departments and divisions that are involved with code enforcement. As you can see, I won't list them all, but you can see them there. 9 are listed. And so these can all have code enforcement issues that end up in code enforcement, or code enforcement can have issues that we need to speak with these divisions regarding. And this list right here gives you kind of an outline of what those issues could be. Building and life safety, which is our building and fire departments. Of course, we need to enforce the uniform building and safety codes. Those are the ones that I mentioned earlier. We're mandated to enforce those. And also weed abatement. You may have noticed this year, it's been an unusual growing season. We've had a lot of regrowth. We've had some rainstorms, and then those were followed with very warm weather. and as a result, we had a lot of weed abatement, weed code enforcement this year. We work closely with the city attorney's office, but let me step back for a moment. In working with building and fire, it's a privilege to work with some of the fine people that I do have the privilege to work with through the fire department and our building division. As you may be aware, we've been through many building officials over the past 5 years, and each one of them have been very fine individuals. It's a very demanding job. The codes can be cumbersome. You have to apply them fairly, and I've had the privilege to work with some very good people. Also, the fire department. I can't say enough about our fire marshal. Dana Foose has been an energizer and has really, really been an asset to this city. And I hope you all recognize that. I certainly do. I also work closely with the planning division, as you know. Planning manager Lucille Breeze. Also, I would like to call out Terry DeMora. Terry DeMora does an excellent job with our code enforcement, scheduling, writing letters. What a quality individual. And also Ben Sarasaris, when we have zoning issues, he hasn't been here that long, a little over a year, but I must commend him on the fine work that he's done and the assistance that he's given me. The police department, always there when you need them. If we've had code enforcement issues, they're there. And I'm very grateful for their support. I did a drive-along with Captain Mariani and Chief Walsh a couple of weeks ago. They addressed some concerns in the community and showed some things that have already been resolved and things that are in the process of being resolved. Also, I don't want to take too much of your time here this evening, but privilege of working with some great people in the public works, solid waste. I can't stop without mentioning we do have a solid waste code enforcement officer, Carol Hessen, one solid waste code enforcement officer. And she does excellent work in our city's alleys. As you can imagine, we do get a number of complaints of dumping, especially around the apartment buildings. And we get a dumping from tenants. We get dumping from people that take advantage and go in and dump their unused or items they don't want anymore. It creates a big burden for property owners. It creates a big burden for tenants. And I work with her quite a bit, and every time that I've needed her assistance or reported something to her, very cheerful and gets it done. And so kudos. Stormwater. You may wonder, stormwater, wastewater, what are we doing with code enforcement there? You may know, you may not. There's been some pretty serious conditions in our community. We have people that are struggling, that are living in motorhomes. Some of them have leaking gray waste or black water tanks. We've had issues where beyond that, they've actually dumped. And so those are violations that must be taken care of. We had the police department involved with citing. We've had wastewater out there with the truck, vacuuming up all that and then treating it as well so that we don't have problems with the bacteria and the waste associated with that, the smells. That's a tough situation. Wastewater for discharges. Also water. As you're well aware, we're in our 5th year of drought here in the state of California. The city of Lompoc has mandated measures for when we could water. We do receive complaints of people watering on off days, off schedule. So on the code enforcement side, we will go out, we'll take photos from the public way, we'll document what it is that's happening. And then Susan Segovia, she has to report to the state. And so she will send letters to the individuals that have had those violations and keep track of them as well. That tracking is required. That pretty much concludes this part of my presentation. And at this point, I'm going to hand off over here to our city manager, Patrick Weimiller. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I want to thank Mr. Boggs for the work he does every day, and I think he I know a lot of times he's cast into a position that's very difficult. It's rarely pleasant to be addressing some code enforcement issues, and he does it with professionalism. And I think the record of how few times we ever get close to citations, the fact that we can resolve these issues through education, direction toward assistance, and to work and resolve and close out the cases without having to get into any sort of hard enforcement issues is a testament to the professionalism and demeanor that Mr. Boggs carries out. I do have some statements I want to make about the program, make sure that it's clearly understood. The nature of the original request, most recently in June, made it seemed to infer as though I had done something to change the ordinance or change the way we apply the ordinance, and certainly I've not. Having reread through that ordinance once again, the enforcement activities we're taking and the approach we take is exactly the way that's laid out within the ordinance. I want to say code enforcement is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It ensures compliance with and preservation of public health and safety, with community aesthetics, with the use of resources such as water, and for all those good reasons, you have indeed made it a priority, as Mr. Boggs pointed out. When I started directing an all-hands approach, it was with the idea that with one dedicated citywide code enforcement person for a city this size, that's running extremely lean. We definitely have a much bigger caseload than one person alone can attend to. As you saw in the PowerPoint, we have many other people in other departments. In solid waste, we do have one full-time person on solid waste issues, but we have many other people in many other divisions that have a portion of their duties that have something to do with code enforcement. And when we started dealing with this all-hands approach, it was merely to make sure left hand and right hand know what they're doing, that we have a common and consistent approach, and that we're communicating. Coordination and communication across various departments and divisions is just it's appropriate and it's important, and that's what we had done. I had also given some direction to the departments that had people rolling out into all the neighborhoods, police, fire, public works, and utilities, to be on the lookout particularly for the things that are city responsibility, either that we've taken on, graffiti being the number one issue, that they aren't to merely be driving by as they're covering all the miles they do in a day in the city, but if they see something like graffiti, to call it in so that we can make sure we're getting on that and having a faster report. Also to notify us of anything that we have a responsibility, we the city have a responsibility to attend to those things in our rights of way. Deep potholes, raised sidewalks, signs that are missing, damage issues, trash dumping issues, those sorts of things, so that we can respond to it. So I wanted to clarify this wasn't any action to become more proactive or less reactive than we have, or to change the ordinance. It was, again, to bring about some efficiencies. I was fairly concerned with some things I read in the article in last Wednesday's Lompoc record. And if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'm going to read particularly some that I felt were directed directly at me. And I understand that even though these statements are attributed to Mr. Mosby, he may not have made them, or he might have said something that was misconstrued and ended up getting misreported in here. But I still think it's important to set the record straight. These are the sorts of things that when these sorts of misreporting and misstatements and get carried out and don't get addressed, then I find people in my profession end up having relatively short tenures as a result of not setting things straight and getting it on the record correctly. So on that, let me read just a short excerpt out of what's in the paper here so that we can be clear. Reading out of the Lompoc record, and again, I'm reading on A2 on the July 13th edition. Under the topic of open for discussion, it reads, Mosby said that he was told by Weimiller after joining the city council in 2014 that he would be held to a higher standard than private citizens. That has resulted, Mosby said, in his properties also becoming repeated targets for what he feels are insignificant code violations. Because of this, Mosby asked at the October 6, 2015 City Council meeting for the code enforcement policy to be brought up for council discussion. That request was backed by 2 other council members. After months of inaction, Mosby raised the issue at the City Council's June 21st meeting. The topic is now scheduled on the draft agenda for the July 19th meeting. Indeed, we are here at the July 19th meeting in response to Mr. Mosby's request on June 21st. This was not a matter of months of inaction after an October 6, 2015 council meeting. And if you would you please play the video of what did go on during council comments on that day?
The other item that I want to ask is the city manager's report that came out a couple weeks ago. There was a comment about the all-hands code enforcement team, and I don't know if we want to have a discussion about the definition of what the all-hands code enforcement team is. There was some quotations around it, but maybe it's something we want to express to the community. I'm not really familiar. There was a minor definition in there, what it consists of with the city attorney.
Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Please have a seat.
Maybe a simple, I don't know if it's something that the public knows about, if you want to bring it out to the public about this all-hands code enforcement team. I'm not sure exactly what it all is.
Yes, thank you. Actually, what we have done is we've been doing a development assistant team meeting to help folks through the development assistance process, and we do that twice a month. We do that on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. We've now turned our second meeting, now that we've been doing that for quite a while and have a good handle on projects in the pipeline and that coordination process, and with the recent coordination efforts in code enforcement, we're now using that second meeting time to bring all different divisions and departments that have some sort of hand in code enforcement together to coordinate that process. Because we've heard many times that folks say that the code enforcement officer is the only one doing code enforcement, and that's not actually accurate. There are a lot of resources that come to the table for code enforcement. The police department gets involved in graffiti abatement as well as solid waste. Solid waste goes through the alleys and removes large mattresses and other things that are dumped in places. Fire department gets very involved with building and code. And the city attorney's office obviously gets very involved in those processes as well. Or some of those other senior code enforcement officer or fire department mechanisms, we need to take it further. So it's an opportunity for us to coordinate across all the divisions and make sure that we are using the resources efficiently.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not done yet with my statement.
There will be public comment during this discussion.
No, I'm rising on point of order, please.
Mayor, a member of the audience does not have a point of order. The council members have a point of order, not a member for the audience.
Please have a seat.
Thank you. So, to continue on, as you can see from that, what happened at the October 6th meeting was a question about what our approach was, what was meant by all hands meeting. We addressed it immediately at that meeting. There was no request to bring back that ultimately to the council. There was no second, no third, as the story misreports. That isn't what happened. And so there was not this matter of months of inaction. I want to clarify that. And furthermore, I never have directed any code enforcement activity involving any individual person nor any individual location, ever. I deal at my discussions and directions have been at a policy and procedure level. I have never indicated any action be taken against anyone. We have plenty of our staff that participates in the code enforcement process. You're certainly free to be able to ask any of them from any of those disciplines as to the truth of that situation. I am concerned over, and as I stated when interviewed about this, I'd be concerned. I had not before heard these accusations about payback. Certainly did respond to that. I would take those to heart, to someone who's going to report them, and would investigate, because we wouldn't tolerate a payback targeting situation. Properties are not cited as a result of some other issue other than they have a code violation, and we seek to remedy that. I know personally, as a property owner myself in this city, I am the person ultimately responsible for the care and maintenance and compliance with the code with my property. I accept that responsibility. I am an adult. I accept that. I do not blame that on some official with the city who is doing their job to enforce the activity. Again, I take responsibility, and I would ask all to do the same. And we are held to a higher standard. I know I have shared that at times. Certainly, anyone who takes an oath is, and I'd like to believe we all meant that oath. Police officers, firefighters, council members, me, we have all taken an oath, and that oath included that we would uphold the laws of the city of Lompoc. And I think it's very important that we say true to those oaths. I hope that helps clarify some of the issues. I really regretted seeing some of the things that were written here. Hope we help to clarify those things going forward, but I did want to assure you that our attempts to carry out code enforcement here by the team are professional. They're meant to be positive. They're meant to bring about the appropriate change whenever possible. If we're missing the mark in any given area, we definitely want to know about that, and we will address that. But I've just been real disappointed about reading things that obviously, just by just even the portion that can be heard on the video, how inaccurate this was. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Boggs? Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah, let me respond to some of these accusations. Mr. City Manager, it was your staff, and you being responsible for your staff did tell me that I was to be held to a higher standard. You yourself, in front of the city attorney, called me a second-class citizen and told me there was things that I would no longer to be due. There's certain rights that I were given up in this town when I got on council. And so that was the level, and that's where that came from. You have mentioned in the past that you are responsible for staff comments and such, but it was one of your staff people who said that. And I can point out, if you want to drag that out, on items that have been brought forward by the code enforcement stuff, and a majority of the items that brought forward to me have been dismissed without me doing much of anything on them, because of speculation of things that were behind banners, because of speculation because I dug a hole, because of speculation of frogs croaking in my backyard, because of weeds that might grow. And I did get written up for a violation, not for the size of the weeds, but potentially the weeds would grow. And I have photographs and records and documentation proving as such. So your staff had made that comment. It was you, the one that said that I had lost certain rights and standards and was no longer to conduct certain levels of business at City Hall. And the city attorney was sitting in the room. I did contact my attorney after that, and did provide you with a letter that you read. You did apologize, and I appreciate the apology. And we accepted and we moved on. But that was a statement that came that way, and the statement that was in there was read as such. I did make a request, and I'll have to go back and look. The date is quite possibly wrong, but I did make a request that we discuss ordinance number 1584, parentheses 12, is at one of the meetings. I'll have to go back and look at that. Sorry, I didn't prepare a slideshow. I could have done that, but I didn't realize we were going to go to this. But I did make a comment and request. It was late one night, and it was confused in my statement. And I said I would clarify by bringing the documents to you the next day. I do believe I gave it to Laura Candy that day, and you were busy in your office or out of your office, but I did present the copy of the document referencing this. I'll go back and see what date it was, but I did make to move forward with this. But again, the reason why I brought this forward to move forward is about the feelings that the public is getting in this situation. Mr. Boggs, I commented to him before more than once, and I appreciated the job he has to do. I've told him more than once that it is a very precarious job to do. Everybody in the code enforcement does. My discussion is the feelings the public is getting. And I've had multitude phone calls of people calling me and saying, I feel this is going on. If I do say something here is happening to me. And several of them stepped forward. There was a lady who stepped forward last week and sent a documentation because her hedge was too tall in her front yard. She felt that came forward because she had complained about garbage in the backyard. Coincidentally, maybe a lot of this is coincidence, but what I was passing forward is a feeling of the public. And what we're supposed to do as councilmen, we have the liaison and the connection between the two. And that's why I stepped forward and brought this forward. And I'm sure a number of the other council members have had people as well confront them and come forward with feelings, and I did quote it as a feeling in there. Likewise, I did myself say it as a feeling as well. I didn't say I had hard documentation that some conspiracy was against me. But coincidentally, from years of not having any code violations on certain properties to have a multitude, it's more a coincidence. And I have been told by staff that I was to be held to a higher level. So that's where a number of those things came from. And I'll do my due diligence later and get a presentation down the road on what the statement came from. Maybe the date is wrong with what the newspaper had on my requests as moving forward.
If I may, Mr. Mosby did mention the particular ordinance he cited. The resolution led to the adoption of that ordinance, and that's the ordinance that I read and reviewed to ensure that we were carrying out, as I reported, that we were carrying out that ordinance, that we had not changed our implementation of that ordinance. So I thought that was clear. Apparently it wasn't, but
You've answered the question that you haven't changed, and that was what my question was, and posted, have you changed? You have been much more successful, so something has been. I mean, you've gone up about 300% in the code enforcement. So you have done something, you've implemented something that's working.
Okay, Councilman Starbuck.
I'm just going to make a couple of comments. I understand, Mr. Boggs, you've got probably one of the worst jobs in the city here, but on the other hand, citizen here, Mr. Whitmore, was in front of us earlier. Years ago, I worked with Mr. Whitmore on the same exact code violation. It was determined that we were looking pretty stupid at that point, and we're repeating and looking stupid again on it. It was a done deal. We had at one point even talked about returning easements to people so we could get out of this offset, setback type rules. I feel like it's the county of Santa Barbara looking over my fence at my dog again here sometimes, The second DRB meeting, being changed to a code enforcement meeting. Well, all of a sudden, I didn't know that fire, police, stormwater, and our environmentalists sat in on the DRB meeting. So there was something planned for the second meeting there that was just referenced on the screens. I mean, if we're doing this, it's just all hands are involved. It's kind of like a massive policing of the citizenry, and I think we've kind of lost control of it.
If I may, just want to point out that those meetings that we're having are meetings amongst staff just to make sure we're being effective and efficient in our approach. That's meeting, just to be clear, that we're not getting into specific enforcement actions so much. Sometimes they are reporting on prevailing issues and we start formulating a response on policy on that.
But city manager, here a few, 2 months ago, they were posted out here with our agendas on the bulletin board.
And that shouldn't have been, because it was purely a staff meeting, not meant to be public meeting. It was directing my staff, which is within my bailiwick, that's within my control, and it's not a legislative action. That's me conducting the business that I need to conduct to be effective in doing what you hired me to do.
Councilmember Humdahl.
Yeah, I heard a lot of crap here in the last few minutes. And Mosby always wants it his way, so he gets it above the fold. So that's what he wanted. So the one thing, the departments and division are doing code enforcement and enforcement. This council looked at it about 3-4 years ago, and I can't tell you what year it was. But we were saying that instead of having just Steve Boggs, the only one doing that control, we need to have everybody who's driving around this town in a city vehicle, which is public works, solid storm, when they're around, they see it. John back there decided to take it on himself as a mayor. He was going to be the one, you got to notify him with everything, and then he would take care of it himself, which is a bunch of, what do you want to call it? We want, the complaints that I get is not by overdoing, by not doing enough. No matter what it is, I had more people wanting to get their grass clean, and that's where we got the grass in. I come into town and I want to get mowed. We got one up on Berkeley, I think it's finally done. It's been there for 6 months. The grass is 3 feet tall to 6 feet tall because the owners leave there. Mr. Boggs worked on a property we have. In fact, somebody else in the audience bought the house after we got it cleaned up. But it was code enforcement. It needed to be done, and there's a length of time you have to do it. I think the city staff is doing it the right way. And I think it just kind of bothered me. What I've heard tonight has not been what the right way of doing business in the city of Lompoc. We want it clean and neat. The general public comes in here. But what I do here is complaints. And not only that, I have people hauling their crap up at Magdalena Creek and dumping it in. I've got refrigerators, I've got beds, I've got couches, and that's from people in town dumping it up there because they don't want, it's too lazy to take it someplace else. So what I've heard tonight, I've just not been happy with.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Mr. Boggs, can you step forward? So during your presentation, you said that there are complaints available online or they could be mailed to the people. They're anonymous complaints, but we still ask them to sign the complaint. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, if it's not signed, do we take action on it?
Well, it would depend. And that, what it would depend on is it a property nuisance condition, or is it a condition of, say, a water heater that's not working, or something that you wouldn't see from the public right-of-way if it's an unsigned complaint.
Okay,
if I have any question, I'd have it reviewed by the city attorney as well.
And just for clarification, the reason we ask to have it signed is it would only be released if, on a court order, if someone tried to sue the city for doing something.
Well,
but we're not releasing it. If I complain about some Dirk's property, Councilmember Starbuck's property, I sign that. you're not going to release that complaint to him if he asks for it.
That is correct.
Okay. It's only if it was a court order for whatever reason that we'd release that. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted that for clarification because some people have asked that question of me. The other question is, as citizens, we're allowed several large pickups at no charge per year for a refrigerator, dryer, something like that. If Councilmember Starbuck dumps his dryer behind my property and I want to have it picked up, I'm charged for that. That's one of my large pickups, is that correct?
That's my understanding. That would be handled by Carol Hessen, our solid waste code enforcement officer. I believe that to be the case, but I can check with her and
Okay,
get
yeah, if we
back
could
with you
check,
on that.
because if someone were to comment, say, hey, look, someone dumped a dryer in my backyard, it wasn't me, yeah, I believe that we should be able to pick that up and get it without charging, or not charging the property owner, but using that as one of their pickups, so
I
check on that
understand.
for me.
I can check that.
Okay, Councilmember Vega.
I have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Boggs. Some of the calls that I get are actual inquiries on how you would handle some situations, okay? So maybe you could kind of give me a scenario here. I've had people that have said on code enforcement, you've actually, or whoever the code enforcement, I shouldn't say it was you, there's a barbecue pit in their front yard, okay? That infraction, if that in fact is true, which I believe it is, that someone did go to someone's home and said, hey, your barbecue pit's in the front yard, it's not compliant. I don't know anything about the landscaping or anything, okay? I'm not sure if that was an issue or not, but I know for a fact, if there was a barbecue pit in someone's yard, how that would be handled, or if that's something that you routinely do, something that's relatively minor, and how that would, our interaction with the public, and how they feel about it, and what would be the fix to that, or is that just where you come up as someone who works for the city and trying to at least ask them to clean it up, okay? And I have another question also, okay? And I'm going to give you two parts, and maybe you can give me a couple of scenarios on how you would handle this. If you talked about solid waste and people dumping things in the alley, which I know to be true. I do have another individual that called me, and they said, hey, somebody else next door moved out. Maybe they got evicted. Who knows? They threw all their stuff in the alley on our yard, and now we got a letter. You know what I'm saying, though? How would we remedy something like that, or is that something that you're able to remedy if you, in fact, were to see that that was a valid complaint, so to speak, okay? So basically,
Yes.
two scenarios, because what I'm interested in is our interaction with the public.
Right.
We don't want to alienate the public. We're representatives of the public. You live here, at least I think you do, and we would like to bring them a little closer to know that we are actually representatives, as we should be. It's all with law enforcement, with public safety. I'll tell you what, we all should try a little bit harder to know who we're living around in our community. That's what we're here for. They want to have representation. They want to feel like they're being heard. I want to feel like I'm being heard. I don't want to be on the other end of this. So if you could, maybe give me a couple of scenarios there.
Yes. In terms of a barbecue in a yard, I don't see that that's something that would initiate code enforcement unless you had an issue where it was a fire hazard. There are provisions in the fire code for a lit fire pit, barbecues, a distance away from the home. Perhaps on occasion, the fire department has been alerted to something like that. There are instances where people have numerous things in their front yard, a barbecue amongst them. Okay. And let's say it was a broken down barbecue that was no longer functional, then in our property nuisance conditions, that'd be like a household item stored out in public view. But I just can't recall an instance where it was only a barbecue in the front yard. You might have that along with several other things and have it be in a condition that it wasn't usable, so it was trash. That's the instance I can think of. The only other one being, like I say, if it was lit, it was too close to the house, maybe a complaint went to the fire department, that might occur.
So if it was just you and you saw a barbecue pit, so to speak, in the front yard, I don't know if you foresee doing that or if that actually is in fact something that could happen. How would you handle that, so to speak, and how would they remedy that, okay?
I don't know that there's a problem with simply a barbecue
Okay.
in public view. Like I say, if it was broken down, it was in, you know,
Okay.
laying on its side, you could tell it wasn't useful anymore. That sounds like a condition that could be, you know, a property nuisance condition. I just don't
reasonable.
recall that situation anytime.
Yeah, I have to respond to, and these are valid calls, so this is a unique opportunity for me to ask you.
Certainly.
Okay,
yes.
and that was why, and the other thing would be solid waste and dumping.
Yes.
How would someone know that if someone's dumping something on their property, they don't know about it because it's an alley, and they get a letter in the mail say, hey, you're in violation, okay?
Right.
And somebody says, oh, well, it was the neighbor down the street that did it, or somebody else just dumped it, okay?
Right. That's a problem in this community. It certainly is. I can't answer to you exactly how that's handled in terms of our solid waste code enforcement officer, Carol Hessen. She typically deals, you know, with those types of situations. And I know that she arranges for pickups. I know that there's instances where people are charged for them. I'm uncertain as to, you know, which ones are not charged for. But I understand that dumping is a problem in this community. A lot of people struggle with that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Boggs. You know, one of the reasons I think the interaction is good, that we hear you up here and that we actually get a chance to vent, is because we don't want to be like the county, okay? You know, basically, your qualifications to be a county supervisor is that you have to work for county planning. We have people up here that might as well work for the city if we're all going to go for the city without being a representative, and that's exactly how we got elected. So basically, one of our questions is if you live here in our community, we should actually be interacting, except for the people, you know, there's people that are going to be commit violations and they're not going to care, okay? But the minor infringements and stuff that we can take care of, we should extend ourselves instead of writing a ticket for everything.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask Mr. Boggs,
Sure,
just
of course.
maybe you can explain, if you do see or someone complains about something that you do see as a violation of the code, what's the process that you follow?
Okay, so it depends on what type of complaint that it would be. We get numerous complaints. If you're talking about a property nuisance condition, which is probably the bulk of the code enforcement that we deal with, not the bulk, but there's a large number of that. With a property nuisance condition, if it's observed from the public way, we can take action on it. Also, people will submit complaints, overgrown weeds, trash, debris, that sort of thing. So what we do is perform a site visit and then attempt to make contact with the individual. So go up to the door, knock on the door, ring the doorbell. We have a lot of people working in this community that aren't home. So we leave them a courtesy notice. It's a doorknob hanger that was approved by council. And typically the verbiage on that would be, please contact me regarding, and it would list what the condition is. On the top we'll list the code 17140.010, maybe it's a trailer in the front yard, J1, and then put thank you. I put my name down. I include my contact number, and also that's followed up with a letter that's digitally signed by the mayor, and that typically goes out the same day. And then sometimes we'll get phone calls from people. Many times people just take care of the issue. So for a property nuisance condition, that's typically how it goes. Now also, council gave authority that if we observe a property nuisance condition, that we can act on that. So as I said earlier, it was an unusual season for weeds. And so once the weeds in our code, once they get over a foot tall, it's a property nuisance condition. And so when we observe those, usually around February is when it really starts taking off, and we're trying to get them knocked down early. So if we observe those, again, it's the courtesy notice. Whether or not anybody's home, we still write out the courtesy notice. Please contact me regarding overgrown weeds and grass. And we'll take that, knock at the door. If we can't get a hold of somebody, leave it in the door jamb. we'll take a picture of the notice in the door jamb. It shows that, you know, we've been there, we attempted to make contact, and then we follow up again with the letter that was approved by council. And response to that has been very good. It's been very good. But I always prefer, if I can speak to somebody, it is helpful because it helps people understand what we are trying to accomplish.
Councilman Starbuck.
Yeah, well, we've flogged this horse for quite a while now, so I'm just going to make a statement. Us as a city need to hold ourselves to a standard. We're asking our citizens to do it, but you can look at our municipal pool out here with broken windows, everything wrong with it. A classic example. None of us that live in this town would be able to get away with a derelict building that's up in Beatty Park right now. Look in our own closets before we go out. We start doing what we're doing right now, all hands. We don't need all hands, I don't feel, out there pounding. Maybe we all hands could clean up some of our own mess.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boggs. Okay, public comment. Anyone wish to address the public or wish to address the council?
Here, might as well speak. My name is Omar Falfel. Good evening, Mayor Lingle, council members. My family and I have been living here since December of '86. I don't even know a code enforcement. Nobody ever bugged me. Never have any notice. Never have any violation. We moved so many different places. I have to agree with Mr. Holmdahl that the enforcement is not enough, because you can see the law is being broken in so many different areas and will continue to be broken. And it'll have to be something to be done. To be kicked back and watch people doing things and not do anything about it, that's unfair for the other people that to do clean their places. So I don't know, I never have any code enforcement. I know Mr. Boggs, but I never knocked on my door, never left me a note. I guess maybe because I keep my house clean and I keep my ducks in a row. So people violate, they should be prosecuted, just like speeding. They're not gonna let them go, but there's a lot of people they think it's okay, I can dump things. The only thing is that happened to me, somebody traded trash can with me. I don't know who it is. And I called the city of Lompoc. I said, this is not my trash. So I have to pay $10 because they didn't dump it. I said, you can look at it. It looked like a restaurant. Ketchup and mustard and everything else. And the city of Lompoc, they replaced that container. I say, watch your can. I said, I will watch it from now on. But I truly believe that the law should be enforced with no exceptions, with everybody. But if everybody wants to go in their own way and dump things, and you see it every day in the alley, that's where we live. They leave beds, they leave barbecue, they throw, you name it, whatever they can throw, they throw it. So I am for the code enforcement, and I haven't seen anything as far as violation. My neighbor, they have the grass is tall. They were told to cut it, and the next day they cut the grass. And I talked to my neighbor, and she was very happy. There was nothing big deal. So continue doing the good work, and I hope you'll be successful with this issue, and then maybe it can get resolved. But you can exclude the law or the ordinance or the enforcement. If you have ordinance, you have to enforce it. You can't just sit back and say, well, tomorrow, not today. I'll do it next week, I'll do it the other week. It has to be continuous and have to be even with everybody else. Again, Mr. Holmdahl, he said, Councilman Holmdahl, he said it right, it's not enough enforcement, and I agree with him. There needs to be more enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Hello. I'm actually here today primarily to speak on behalf of a gentleman, Martin Lee, who had submitted his letter who could not be here today. It began, he had an incident in 2015 in which he was trying to landscape his property in efforts of water conservation. The front yard was a steep slope. A slope needed that to be corrected. After removing the grass, he began a footing for a retaining wall. While digging the yard, he found a drainage pipe that was broken. He began to take apart the curb and repair that. on the sidewalk. Upon doing that to the drain line while pouring the cement, he went to his backyard and returned, at which point the Lompoc police officers were at his curb, indicating that he needed to stop work or he would be arrested. Apparently, he was in a violation of building codes. Along those lines, he asked for confirmation of who to contact, where this complaint come, how to resolve the issue. Once he did make it to the city hall for the proper permit, he walked with the inspector, outlined the issue and the goal for the sidewalk and the retaining wall. Upon completion of the sidewalk, he began work on the retaining wall, began pursuing the permits, at which point he then proceeded to outline the diagram and whatnot. He pointed out that there would be no safety risk, no violation of the sidewalk. It would not be within height, sight, or violation of those views. The permit was told that would not be issued unless he agreed to build the wall 1 foot from the sidewalk. The encroachment permit does not state a distance from the sidewalk, nor does the city have any ordinance or code prohibiting construction next to the sidewalk. I was told by the building departments it was preference. It took 6 months working with the city inspectors, engineers to get permits, hundreds of dollars, and intentionally would not include names because he felt he was treated poorly through the whole experience. Essentially, I read this letter one time, and I had the same exact experiences with your code enforcers. So whether or not this is conscious or subconscious, I believe they're inferring incorrectly how to encroach on the public. I believe they're inappropriately misreading your intention, which is all in good behavior. I believe that the gentleman that puts his efforts forth every day does a good job, but I even approached him on multiple occasions to resolve an issue with my neighbor who does not live in town. I asked him on multiple attempts to come to me and I would help him. He puts his ticket in there. It flies out onto the yard.
Speak into the microphone.
These people do not get these notices. The approach is inappropriate for your community, and your staff is following inappropriately. It's also inappropriate to see Santa Maria photos on our Lompoc website.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Mayor and Council, I'm Deanne Carr. I spoke earlier. I want to apologize to you and to the Council for being out of order. I'm sorry I misunderstood what the rules are. I do want to say that Government 101, there are personal issues and there are institutional issues. And whatever personal argument there is, that's not an institutional issue. And I hope that you would set some boundaries and enforce them about what's proper for discussion, especially within a public item. That's more for staff comments, not appropriate for this situation. Thank you very much, and again, I apologize for being out of order.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members, Mayor, John Lynn, Lompoc resident. First to Mr. Holmdahl's statement, actually, I did volunteer to send out letters with regard to that, but the council said I couldn't do it. Then we, at council, drafted that very nice letter, which is still in use, and I think has been very successful. So listening to the discussion here, it seems to me that there may be some misunderstanding. Clearly, I think everybody understands that the council action was for 17-140, and the city staff has worked diligently to enforce that. But then I heard a comment that if a staff member turns in a complaint, it is treated as a public complaint and can then be reviewed outside 17-140. So perhaps there's just a little misunderstanding there, and I think the council needs to make that a little more clear. As to the success of the program, opinions vary widely, so I want to draw a comparison. So between May 1, 2011 and October 10th, 2011, there were 85 complaints. They were complaint-based code enforcement actions. So about 200 a year, if you average that out over 12 months. On the other hand, in the most recent 12 months, there were 915 cases opened and closed. In fact, in the last 5 years, code enforcement has opened 3,329 cases. So that's about 2,300 cases more than we opened under our prior program. Now, maybe we had that many problems here, but I'm not sure if we're better off having cited 2,300 residences, businesses, and if that's what we should do going forward. That's a policy decision for y'all. So what you need to decide this evening, I believe, is should the council direct staff to follow the 2012 intent and limit proactive code enforcement to nuisance ordinances, regardless of what the all hands see? Or should the council review some of our problem ordinances, as we agreed to in 2012, and fix them before more enforcement? And the city clerk will pass out what I passed out back in 2012. Or should the city cite 5,000 or 6,000 residences with full garages, or 6,000 or 7,000 residences with illegally placed storage sheds, or perhaps 10,000 or so residences that placed improvements in the city property where the sidewalk sits, and especially in the older portion of town where our friend earlier spoke, and he has an 18 feet of his yard is not an easement, it is in fact city property. So whatever your decision is, it needs to apply, I believe you will all agree, to everyone equally. And everyone needs to be treated equally at the same time. And that takes away the perception that there's somehow something going on that's not above board. I hope you decide to move forward with something this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, City Council, I'm a realtor in town, and Pam Stevens, and my concern is infringing on individual property rights. And hopefully I'm just totally off base here, but I understand they've been taking pictures of garages open, and it's a problem if there's storage in the garage instead of cars being stored in the garage. And to me, this is government overreach. You know, if you're telling us how we need to use our homes and what we need to do with our garages, you're getting into personal property rights. And I'm very concerned over that. The other thing is with retribution, and this was not you, Mayor, but this has happened in the past when we've taken and testified in front of the council. The next week, and there's several people in this room that have had the same thing.
Please address the council. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Within the same week, had our rental properties all tagged. So you can say it's coincidence, but.
Okay. Next, please. Thank you.
Nicholas Gonzalez, a resident of Lompoc, Mayor, council members. I don't think anybody's going to argue and state that they're against code enforcement, especially health and safety. I think the crux of everybody's gripe is how it's applied. Mr. Boggs has a job to do, and I think most people agree that he does his best in doing his job. The problem is there's no filter for Mr. Boggs, because there's no way for him to know if the neighbor is being retaliatory, if the neighbor's being discriminatory, if the neighbor's trying to intimidate the other. And how and why do we think that this can occur? Because I've personally seen, because I'm a landlord and have to resolve tenant problems, where a homeowner has kids and they play in the garage and they've had a pool table or the boxing glove and the gym equipment, and the next door neighbor doesn't like it. So what do? They call code enforcement. I've seen where my tenants or other tenants have had issues and they've called the police, and then next thing you know it, the other tenant's calling code enforcement. I've seen where I've had a certain tenant and has conducted business in a certain way, and and then I receive as the property owner letters stating that my conditional use permit will be removed. That tenant goes away and that problem goes away. The next tenant comes in and then it's not enforced. So the problem is the inconsistency of how it is applied. And a large part is the secretness of the code enforcement, because you can be anonymous. And I think if you're going to have code enforcement, you should break this town into 4, 5, 6 quadrants, and you should go quadrant by quadrant and apply these rules to everyone equitably. This way, we will not allow Mr. Boggs to be abused. We will not allow the city to be abused by people who have agendas, whether they be political, personal, aesthetical, whatever that is for that particular day, and make this an equitable process. Because I can guarantee you, I got fed up. I have dumpers galore, not only with me, but with other property owners. I've on one occasion, I would like to thank the PD, where I went and I spoke to one particular officer, and we both knew the individual that dumped, and he made a call, and we didn't have to have a code enforcement letter. We didn't have to have a code inspector, a nice call for, hey, neighbor to neighbor. They went and picked up their junk because they were caught on film dumping stuff onto my property. Okay? We have to do this in an equitable way. And if you don't do it in an equitable way, you're going to continue to have this problem. And then that problem is going to create even a bigger problem. So if you truly want code enforcement, equitable, everybody the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Jane Barron, I would just follow along. As far as perceptions go, if you think that you don't have a problem, and once again, I would say this is a process problem you have here. If you think you don't have a problem, don't you think it's interesting that you have people using code enforcement against people who are running for council member and people who have been mayor and have run for mayor? And in fact, there was an article in Newsweek today of somebody who is known not to like a couple of the politicians in town, who then is pulling this out. Oh, look, they can't even keep their own property. And really, you don't think that there's something to this? They're using it to get people elected to city council and to get people unelected. I just read today that Mr. Mosby isn't sure he's going to run for city council. I can see why he's attacked, right? Because he causes too many problems. He's attacked by a fellow council member and by the city manager who works for you, Councilmember Mosby. Ooh. Whoa. Process. You got process problems. Out of hand. Out of hand.
Thank you. Next, please. Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, and I believe this was an update, so I do not believe there's any action required on this. So we will move on to item number 11, which is discussion of posting the city manager's weekly report to the city's website.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Hopefully this is a much less contentious issue. Councilmember Mosby requested that the weekly report that staff assembles and I deliver to each of you via email on a weekly basis be posted on the website. As I summarized in the report, there's nothing in the report that's confidential in nature. It's certainly information that's available to the public. It is put together in a what I'd call raw or draft sort of form, and I would hope there's not an expectation we'd polish that up if we were posting to the website. But the reason we're bringing this forward at Mr. Mosby's request is because the original intent of the original audience was meant to be the council members. When I was being interviewed for this job, I was asked how I communicate information to council members, and then when I have my opportunity to ask questions, I ask, well, how do you like to be, receive your information? This weekly report was something that was identified. So because that was the original intent, the reason it's being brought back to you is only because if the intent of the readership is that you would all give you the opportunity, if you wish, to support that to be on the website rather than just merely posting on there. That's why we're bringing it to you. But again, there's no problem with any of the content of the information that's in the weekly report. It certainly is available to anyone. We've added people to the readership on the email distribution that have asked to members of the media, citizens, and the cost of doing that is going to be pretty de minimis. You know, it's just one extra thing that we post on the website if we go that way. So that covers that, and I'll really leave the matter up to you to discuss and decide if that's something you support. Thank you.
Any comments or questions from Councilmember Starbuck?
No, I appreciate and hear the statement you made that this is not a very formal document. It is you know what it is. It's an informative document. And, you know, truthfully, like you say, there's nothing confidential. There's nothing secret. It's 23 to 28 pages of information and updates, and some of it's very repetitive. But, you know, like you say, it's a tool we use, and I don't see why we couldn't put it on the website for anybody that was interested, you know.
Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah, for the city attorney, would this document be considered a public document? The fact that it's distributed to each and every council member?
If someone requested, made a public records request for this document, yes, they could receive it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, open this up to the public. Anyone from the public wish to say anything? Seeing no one rise, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Again, this was a discussion. There's really no action warranted unless a council member wants to make a motion on this. Councilmember Mosby.
Well, again, I'm the guy who brought this forward. I think there's a lot of information, and granted, I wouldn't be asking for a refinement of what's there, but there's significant amount of information in there, and I know the city probably spends a significant amount of money putting this document together. And it has been useful for me to answer a lot of questions when people have asked me questions because of the wealth of information that's in there. So I guess what I would need to do is bring it back for, make a motion to bring it back for an agendized item to put it on, or what would
But I think you can make a motion today. It's on the agenda.
Okay. Well, yeah, but it's on for,
That's okay.
it's on for discussion.
You can make a motion. Yeah.
So anyhow, make the motion to put it on, available on the city website.
I'll need a second on that.
No, I'll go ahead and second it. Like I say, there's nothing secret there.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote. That passes 5-0. Okay. So we'll start putting on the website effective as soon as possible?
Yeah, next edition will be up.
Good. Okay, written communications.
You did receive a written communication from the Santa Barbara County Taxpayers Association.
Okay.
And it is made available to the public.
Okay. Oral communications, this is your last opportunity to speak to us for up to 2 minutes on any item you so desire.
This is what I want. I want a public discussion of transparency. I want not just me, but everybody to be able to talk informally, have a dialogue about how to increase the openness of city government. As a bare minimum, I want the use of the chambers to be on the agenda, because that podium should be over there. Because the city manager and the mayor did not have the authority to move it. It's in your own rule book. And I would like action. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening again, Deanne Carr. Third time's the charm. I have three things. I want to thank Councilmember Mosby for your transparency town hall that you did. That's an important thing. The mayor is the locus of the public process. So if you don't guard the
Sorry, would you repeat that?
the mayor is the locus
Oh.
of the public process. If you don't protect the public process, then who will? And when you were elected, the public had 10 minutes per meeting to speak outside of regular or particular items. And the open communication is a time for the public to come and say, here's something we'd like to agendize. That's our opportunity. That keeps the public in the mix. Otherwise, this winds up being a staff paperwork session without public involvement. So I wish that you would consider changing the length of time that people have to speak for open communication. That's an important part of the meeting. I have nicknamed the 82-acre wood, I think I'm pointing the right way, the 82-acre wood, I nicknamed that 80-acre wood after Winnie the Pooh. And the woods are gone. So I went out there and looked and all the woods are gone. So what happened? I don't see that. I scoured the agendas and I didn't see where that was approved by the city council. If you took the trees out, what happened to the timber? I'd really like an answer on that. If you could look into that, please agendize that for discussion, or at least report on that. Someone request that. And finally, the podium. If you remember tonight, you had all these kids with certificates here, excited they were in the council chamber to have their picture taken. And right in the middle of the picture is the wrong side of the podium. No matter where you are with the podium here, you have your back to someone. It's either the back to the public, or as you said, when you were up here, you have your back to the council.
Okay, you need to wrap it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nicholas Gonzalez, resident, and I'm speaking as a rental property operator. I've gotten together with quite a few different other property owners, and I'm trying to get a group together here. But more of them are in line of litigating than anything else because of the imposition of fees and fines for the illegal dumpers. We had a big discussion of code enforcement, and I think it's about time that you take serious the illegal dumpers in town. Because it's not a trash bag, it's a living room, a bedroom, it's a half-built car. I mean, this has to stop. I mean, that's health and safety, because much of this is done in apartments where children unfortunately only have the alleys and the areas to play in and to be in. I had a very positive incident with the PD where they did a call. I was a little bit imposing to get that call. I think that that we really should take that seriously, and that's a proactive step, and that's just something that nobody should be doing. Nobody should be moving out of their apartment and throwing their old beds and their drawers and their kitchen stuff and everything and piling it up at the side. But my attorney tells me that I don't own the alley, I don't control the alley, therefore I'm not responsible for the alley. And rather than being a butt and just not picking up in the alley when I get these letters, I do, but it's a very costly expense, and it's dangerous sometimes too, because some of the stuff they throw out there is probably considered hazardous material. I mean oil and paints, and I mean you got soiled mattress. I mean, it's just it's not healthy. And so I would really like to see at some point you agendize something that gives the police or code enforcement the ability. Oftentimes you can go out and you can find within the furniture that's there the people's mail. So addresses and everything. So why are you imposing it upon the property owner? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one rise, we're going to close oral communication, bring it to council for council requests, comments, and meeting reports. Start with Councilmember Mosby.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Starbuck.
I have no reports, but I want to indulge Mrs. Bear real quick here. When the public asks the council for something, and they've asked it more than once, I feel as though it's time that maybe we do, represent here and say, okay, initiate a dialogue on transparency. I think that a casual council on the floor here would not hurt us. We've not done one in several years. There's an issue with it. It's been brought to us before and before. Now the Brown Act, anybody wants to slander someone's name, they just say, oh, there's a Brown Act. I go to a social event, and 3 of us are there. The first thing out of anybody's mouth, Brown Act. So maybe there should be a little public education on Brown Act and a little bit of council education on transparency. So, if we could go ahead and maybe schedule something and get a second and third, I'd like to move this.
Okay, and I will second that.
I'll give it a third also.
Okay, I'll second it because I believe that we are as transparent as we can be, but if we can become better, great. So I'll second and a third, and we'll get that scheduled.
Can I wear Levi's?
Okay, Councilmember Vega. Oh, I'm sorry.
Clarification on that, just to understand what you're looking for. Is that something where you just want a time with those topics posted as opposed to having a facilitator in or anything? We just want to hold a session?
I don't think we would really need a facilitator. I mean, as long as it's agenda site, it's on the agenda and a date was set.
Great, and what do you have in mind for when to do that? Would that be like on an off Tuesday or Thursday, or off Thursday from when where we normally meet, or would it be on a Saturday, or do you have any ideas?
I'm very wide open about it. It's, whatever council desires, I would want to make it convenient for the public to get there. I wouldn't want to do it at 11 a.m. on Monday or something.
I would be in favor of an off Tuesday or Thursday. That would be okay. Instead of doing it on a weekend.
Is that okay? Okay.
And off Tuesday, not a Thursday, because we have SBCAG, APCD, and county parks on Thursdays, so.
Okay, so one of our off Tuesdays.
Off evening, and I know Mr. Pedone has other commitments on the off Tuesdays, but we probably, on the Brown Act side of that, that's a legal education side of things. I know transparency can just be a general discussion. If I'm hearing you right about what you're looking for as refreshing on the Brown Act and what all's involved.
Well, not the required biannual training or anything by any means, but you know what it is, I tell you, if you're at a social event and Councilmember Holmdahl, Lingle, and myself are there, inevitably 5 people will come up and say Brown Act.
So are you good enough with getting a layperson's review of what the Brown Act is, or would you prefer to have an attorney?
I like lay people. Attorneys make me nervous.
Sorry, Mr. Benoni. Thank you.
Either way, Bob, or maybe during the week that a Wednesday or something when Joe's here. Either way, whatever you guys.
Okay. Comments?
Is this time for council request also?
Yes.
Okay. I have 2 things. One of them was going to be Ms. Bear's transparency meeting, which I'm glad Dirk brought it up. It's something that we can only learn from. It won't be negative, and it'll show people that we are open to learning and we are open to being transparent. No one's here to not be transparent, I don't believe. The other comment I have to make is, after reading the council handbook, which I've read before, under A7, it does say that any movement of the dais, or anybody even sitting up here on the dais, is through council request. It sounds like the placement of the podium, whether we want just council up here, whether we want staff up here, is through council request. And it's over here on page 7, number A7. And I think that we should go through that motion, because if we have the rights to do these things and we bypass them, that's our own fault. So basically, I'd like us to approve or disapprove if we want a location, or what we want, or if we want movement of this dais, or we want placement, or who we want up here. The other thing is, With all due respect, Mayor, next time we have people come up here and they do the Pledge of Allegiance, I think it would be prudent, whether they're children or not, to face the flag instead of having them turn around to the public. So that was just one of my comments, okay? Unless there was a flag over there, I think we should all face the flag. It's not for the public's view, it's for us to pay respect to the flag. So those are my comments. So basically, if there's a way of us having a decision to make as far as the podium, as far as seating on the dais, I think we should make that decision. It is in the handbook, and I can read it if you guys want me to.
So are you making that a council request to be brought forward?
Yes, sir, if I could.
Okay, and I need a second and a third.
I'll second.
A third. Okay, so Mr. City Manager, do you have any clarification on what we want?
Just maybe an identification of what the dais entails, because I understood this to be the dais.
Let me clarify. I think there's twofold. I think the dais, the seating, we should probably have a discussion on that. But I think most importantly, I think the location of the podium, if somebody wants to pursue the seating arrangement on the dais, as after you read the handbook and it says we can change the seating arrangement, we can move it, we can do whatever we want, whether we want the dais or the podium on the left or the right or the center, I think that's our call. So basically, I'd like that clarification.
It does speak to the dais, though, right?
It does speak to the dais, yes, sir.
Right. Which, but you'd like to include even though the handbook, it's been what I think is misreported, was that somehow the location of the podium was different. The handbook talks about the dais. I understood this to be the dais.
This is the
I
dais.
could have that wrong. I'm just explaining if I had it wrong, because I understood this area to be the dais.
Okay. If you'd like me to clarify, I'd like the podium and the dais to be discussed.
Sure.
Both entities, both separate, you're correct. And actually, let me go ahead and read this.
Mr. Mayor, may I just, what about when we change the chairs and when we move other tables? I mean, what's the extent of what you want to have? Or maybe that'd be part of the discussion?
I'll tell you what, Joe, I think you're the
Part of the
attorney here, and
discussion.
I'm just reading the handbook. So basically, you can help us clarify, because what I'd like to do is read some of this here. The speaker's podium may be positioned to face the dais at right angles to the dais, facing the audience, or any other arrangement council prefers. Council may wish to direct placement of staff tables, audience seating, and all other physical. I think that's what you're referring to. You're wondering whether we have an issue with that. I mean,
Wondering whether you want to include that in the item that you discuss, that when you bring it up.
I think yes. We might as well talk about it all. Thank you, sir.
Anything else, Councilmember Vega?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Humdahl?
Yeah, I would like to have a workshop on those food carts. I don't think we really settled it tonight at all, 'cause I think there needs to be some type of change on that one. That was my biggest concern. The interesting thing on the corner of A Street and Central, is they have more golf carts, those carts standing on the corner there. The day after we had the meeting here at the city council chamber, so they started stacking them the next day. So I think we need to see how we're gonna handle them, how they're gonna pay for it. I think the 1,000 is high, but I'd like to see some type of workshop on that. Included with that would be the grocery store, the stores and such that have it, to see what kind of way they can handle it. Because we took care of it here several years ago. I hadn't seen any problem until what happened the last meeting we talked about, that we had a problem with them at all. Because we did get the stores, we'd get their own cars and they go around and pick them all up. I still think that's the simplest deal, and they can just charge for it, how we get it. So
Councilmember Humdahl, so that issue is coming back at the next council meeting. Yeah.
I know it is, but I mean, more specific to, it's coming back. Are we going to make a decision? We're going to have a major discussion on, is that?
Well, it's coming back for full discussion. I mean, so it's coming back as a second reading, but it's coming back and we can have full discussion on that. That is my understanding.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Mayor, that was what I was going to bring up also. You know, the public comment is important to these businesses, and they're facing concern. They feel like they're being penalized for people taking things off their property. I would like to have a little bit more of a discussion on that before, and hopefully we will do that. Okay,
Sure.
I just wanted to
Okay,
clarify.
yeah, and so that is coming back for that then. Okay, anything else? Okay, so,
I just wanted to report and follow up, because I was also asked to send notification to the list, identify who all might. And we came up with we're not sure that everybody had it, but we tried to overcover than undercover, so that we have the list that we're going to bring forward to you as you asked, and we did send out those notifications last week. So just wanted to make you aware.
okay, good. Okay, so I've attended many meetings, none of them at city expense, so I'm not going to report on all those. I did attend the two special meetings for the ad hoc committee over the past couple weeks. But I'd like to make a council request, and that is to bring forward as soon as possible, hopefully to the next meeting, the possibility of modifying the fee schedule to reduce and/or waive CUP fees for things like 501c3s. Some of you know that, I'll give you an example. There's a man that helps support young kids in this community, has this boxing gym. So he's looking for another location. He's found one, but for the third time now in, I believe it's 2 years, he's going to have to pay a $1,500 to $2,000 fee for a CUP. So I think I'd like to look at the possibility. The staff does not have the ability to waive these fees. He goes to the counter, they do not have the ability. So I think the council may want to give some direction to staff under certain conditions, something that benefits the community, for instance, like that. And they are 501c3, that we give them the authority to either waive or reduce the fees. And that'd be my request, and I'd like to have a second and a third to just bring that back for discussion.
What I'd like to, is a quick question, could we get something maybe like a use variance for the nonprofits?
I think maybe that come into the discussion that we're going to have.
Well, I'm all about discussing, I'll second.
I'll give you the third, Bob.
Okay. Okay, and if possible, there's a little bit of a time crunch for this specific individual, so if we could come back at the next meeting, I would appreciate it, and I'm sure he would as well. Okay, there being nothing else, this council meeting is adjourned to the regular scheduled meeting at 6:30 p.m. on August 2nd. Good night.